And so I'd like to call the meeting to order. Do I need to? Okay, after roll call. Okay, and as far as the invocation, we'd like to ask Councilmember Ricardo Pacheco if you'll lead us in the invocation, please. For those of you who can stand, please do so.
Heavenly Father, we come together here to make decisions for our city. Please give our leaders the wisdom and the knowledge to make the right decisions for our community. And also keep peace in the world and in our country, especially in this world of violence against a lot of our police officers, those that protect us, our firefighters, and our servicemen and women that are out there trying to keep peace in our country. Watch over them and keep them out of harm's way. For these things we ask. Amen.
And
Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And can we go ahead and have a roll call, please?
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches a todos, and welcome to our council meeting. Councilmember Cruz Baca?
Present.
Councilmember Susan Rubio?
Present.
Councilmember Ricardo Pacheco?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Monica Garcia?
Here.
Mayor Manuel Lozano?
And we are excusing him for the moment. He'll be arriving shortly. He had an event to attend. Let me go ahead and report out from closed session. On the first item, the City Council voted 3-2 with Council Members Rubio and Cruz objecting to negotiate a DDA with Walburn Development. Second item, motion 4-0 to settle case with Mr. Morris on a workers' compensation case for a total of $117,500 as recommended by Mr. Tharp, our attorney. The third item, 4-0 vote to authorize city attorney to respond to the City of Gardena versus the Regional Water Quality Control Board in a lawsuit. And with that, do any council members have any announcements?
I'd like to close in memory of Marianne Marino, a longtime resident of Baldwin Park. She was 92 years old, and she passed away about a week ago. And just the condolences and to the family for a longtime resident that had been here. Also to Oscar Avila. He was at our Parks and Rec and now works for the SCE Credit Union. His father passed away, Jose, and that was last week, and yesterday and Monday, I believe, were his services. So also condolences to the family Avila for their loss. And of course to the officers that we lost in Dallas and in Baton Rouge, and to say thank you to all our officers here that put on a uniform every day and go out there to keep us safe. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. And along those lines, I do also want to thank our police department, because we had a very scary situation with a police pursuit ending in our city and 3 suspects that ran off. 2 were taken into custody immediately, and 1 it was a few hours of negotiation. So I want to thank our police department for taking him into custody without issue, and especially for our community. Thank you.
Mayor.
Okay,
let's give a round of applause for officers. I also just want to thank our Parks and Recreation staff for the hard work they've been doing on our concerts in the park. They were very successful. I don't think we must have had over 200 people at our last event, so continue the good work. Also, our police department did a fine job securing the area, making sure that everything was safe. So I want to thank you. Brought out your mobile unit, and you had officers out there keeping us safe, so we appreciate that. Thank you.
We'll also like to close on behalf of Isaac Mendiola, who passed away recently. He's a high school recent high school graduate. Unfortunately, he was fighting cancer for so long, and we were all rooting for him. Anyhow, the mayor is there at the funeral services representing the entire council, and we send our condolences to the family and to all the students that I know many students are suffering because of this. Thank you.
And Councilmember Rubio, I'd like to also let those that would like to attend the funeral services tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning at Faith Community on Badillo.
Thank you. Yes, we offer our condolences. At this time, we're going to go ahead and move into the proclamations, commendations, and presentations. And we'll start with a presentation of Certificate of Recognition to David Gaither for being named Baldwin Park High School 2016. There's David Gaither. All right, there you are. Come on up. Coach Gaither, he was named Baldwin Park High School 2016 Coach of the Year for the girls softball team. And if you'd like to say a few words, but come on up and join us so we can take some pictures, and we have a certificate of recognition for you. Okay, let's bring him up, and then we can bring up his family. Congratulations. Can I read this?
So I'll read this, hopefully you can all hear me. This is a certificate of recognition to David Gaither, Baldwin Park High School and girls softball coach. The City Council congratulates you for being named the 2016 Coach of the Year. Thank you for your hard work, leadership, and dedication you have provided to the team, parents, and staff, and for the favorable recognition you bring to your school and your community. Presented this day, the 20th of July, 2016, by Mayor Lozano, Mayor Pro Tem Monica Garcia, Councilwoman Cruz Baca, myself, Councilman Pacheco, and Councilwoman Susan Rubio, and also our City Treasurer, Maria Contreras, right behind you, and our City Clerk, Ms. Alejandra Avila. I think she's far end right here. So here we go. Congratulations, and we're gonna take a few.
My wife, my daughter. Oh no, none of the students.
Okay. So let's have you.
You want to do a picture and then, or you want to do
Let's
that?
take a photo and have your family come on up.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Squeeze in, everybody.
Say a few words, and let's have your family come on up.
Okay, if we could have the family members, the wife and the Gaither family, daughters.
Tell us a little bit about the program, Coach.
No, my son's in Reno in a softball tournament.
Okay, go ahead and say a few words.
Hey.
Kind of tell us what you do.
First off, I'm very honored to be able to get the certificate and actually be nominated by the San Gabriel Valley Tribune as Coach of the Year for 2016. 37 years I've been coaching the city of Baldwin Park, starting off with Eastside Little League and working my way up to all through the high school. It's been a long, hard road, but it's been very rewarding. All the coaches or all the players that I've had over the past years, not only in coaching softball but also coaching football. So softball is my passion. It's always been my passion, and hopefully I'll continue doing softball until I hear the bell upstairs. Thank you. Thank you.
David, can you introduce your family to us?
Pardon?
Can you introduce?
Oh, yes. I'd like to introduce my wife, Rosie. We've been married 42 years. And this is my wonderful daughter, Leslie, and her little baby girl, Jocelyn. Oh, no, I'm also an usher at St. John.
Take a few. One more, last. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I just want to say hello to David because not only does he help out with the softball in the schools, but he also helps out within our community. For years, he was a part of the social services at St. John's. He still helps out with a lot of the toy giveaways and all the functions within the community. And he and his wife, he's an usher at St. John's, as Mayor Pacheco brought up. Council Member Pacheco brought up. And so he does a lot of things here I just promoted you. No, he does a lot of things in our community. Thank you so very much, David.
And, I was going to ask another council member to go ahead and facilitate the next presentation, but I actually have a very, warm place in my heart for this individual that we're going to be recognizing because he was my principal when I was at Baldwin Park High School. And so if I can go ahead and ask Principal Vernon Moyer to stand. Come on up. And we're going to give a presentation of plaque to Vernon Moyer in recognition of his retirement from the San Gabriel Valley Boys and Girls Club in Baldwin Park. So very honored to see Mr. Moyer. Faithful to the Braves, yeah.
Congratulations.
It really is.
Congratulations.
So at this point, I'm going to present this plaque to Vernon Moyer, San Gabriel Valley Boys and Girls Club, in recognition of your 14 years of outstanding dedication and leadership to the Boys and Girls Club organization. We commend you for the unconditional commitment you have given the students, parents, and colleagues. We wish you a happy retirement. And present it to you on this day by the mayor, who is not with us, obviously. He'll be joining us, myself, and council members here, and it's our honor to give this to you. Again, Mr. Moyer has been a real staple in our community, and this is just one role, one hat that he's worn. And so we thank you, and we wish you all the best in your retirement.
Thank you, Monica. Well, I've been retired from the school district for the last 13 years, but I remained active with the Boys and Girls Club because in 1975, when it first started, I was involved with that. And the last 14 years, I've been on the board for the Boys and Girls Club. And it's something that's really important to me, and it's important to Baldwin Park. I just wish that that things maybe had worked out differently some time ago. But I appreciate this very much. I was not expecting it, and I'd like to thank the council and the mayor. Thank you.
Kind of like when you were in elementary, remember?
Last one, thank you.
Can we ask Charles to come up? Who's the director of the Boys and Girls Club here in Baldwin Park? And if there's another staff member, Charles, that's fine, so they can come up for photos. This is Charles that runs our wonderful Boys and Girls Club here at the community center, or where Morgan Park is. And also a round of applause to Charles for all the programs that he has for those.
Pictures?
To balance it out.
Hold it. Last one, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you do in our community. Yes. Okay, let's take a picture. Manny, can you take a picture? Okay, good to see you. Take care. Okay. Touch. I also want to comment that Mrs. Moyer was my second grade teacher, and so these are two very special individuals to me in this community. So, what a pleasure! Thank you. At this point, we have a presentation of plaque to Luz Mercado, and you want to go ahead and present that? Okay.
And I'm going to present it. I know that we recognized at the concert, we recognized Luz, but we have some very extraordinary and special young people in Baldwin Park. A lot of us are a product of Baldwin Park. Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Monica Garcia and myself, and also from Sierra Vista is Marie Contreras. We have a lot of people here in Baldwin Park. Some of our police officers grew up in Baldwin Park. So I just want to say kudos to all of you and thank you so very much. So we have business owners like Danny in the back that grew up in Baldwin Park. And we have showed that you can do it in Baldwin Park against all odds or whatever people may say. And I give this plaque to Luz because she was the last of the Millennium recipients for the Melissa and Bill Gates Millennium Award. She will be going on to Stanford with a full entire scholarship for the duration of her education. She's a product of parents that have been very active in helping her and the rest of her siblings. Her mother, Mrs. Mercado, I've known for a while because she was very active in the Dianza school and there all the time for a lot of the meetings, and that's what it takes for the parents and the community and your family to come together to help you get through these hurdles. And we hope that Luz comes back and brings us a lot of wonderful stories about all her travels and all her endeavors with this wonderful venture, with this beautiful scholarship that she will be receiving. So thank you very much.
For a picture, yeah. Come on up, Mom. Una photo.
Mom and any family, you want to say anything?
Mom, is that your sister?
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, it is an honor. Thank you, council members and everybody for this recognition. It truly is, awards and recognitions from the city or in schools that really do kind of inspire students to just pursue, their goals and know that their hard work is worth it, and at the end, it does pay off. So I know that's been the case for me. I know it's been lots of hard work throughout high school, lots of sacrifices, but I've seen all that work pay off now at the end. Now I will be going off to my dream school, so college. I know a lot more awaits, but I really do hope to come back to Baldwin Park and give back to other students and continue motivating them to let them know that, it is possible if you just pursue your dreams and you have that determination to continue. So thank you very much. I'd like to recognize my mom, my parents too. My dad's not here, but this is my mom, Margarita Mercado. She's been behind me, rooting for me since day one. So thank you very much. Gracias, ma, por todo lo que ha hecho. And my sister is here too, so she's still here. She's still going to continue her academics here in Baldwin Park. But thank you. Thank you.
All the best to you. Please keep us posted.
Yes.
On your path, on your career. And while they wrap up the photos, I just want to point out that this is all that's great with the city of Baldwin Park. There are so many young individuals that have gone on to great things from our community, so we're definitely very proud. More recently, we've had Cesar Arevalo accepted to Ivy schools. Now we have Luz Mercado. There are so many great individuals, so many great youth, so many talented youth from our community that we celebrate. Luz, you're like a celebrity. Get used to it. Take care. All right, and next we have a presentation from Cosmont. Presentation by Cosmont and Associates with status on the Cosmont Retail Now advisory and implementation process. So let's go ahead and introduce Cosmont. Please, if you can introduce yourself, stating your name. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My name's Ken Hira. I'm an executive vice president with Cosmont Companies. Members of the council, it's a pleasure to be here. We're going to give you a executive summary version of a far more detailed research document, if you will. It's in the form of a PowerPoint, and I'm going to go through many slides quickly, but try to highlight and summarize in about 10 minutes or so our findings, and then we can talk a little bit about next steps. Again, Ken Hira with Cosmont Companies. My colleague Archie Davenport is also here. We've worked together on this assignment. So let me dig into it. Cosmont's background is that we're an economic development consulting firm, and we've worked on retail strategies for some 30 years. Our approach to this plan was threefold. It's the analysis, it's the strategy, and then it's implementation. And we really consider ourselves an implementation, hands-on firm that's more than a study firm in terms of just coming up with data. We really want to apply the data. So the information we've gathered is wanted to inform a plan and a strategy and then try to implement that. I'll run through the demographics quickly because these are more consumer related and they want to inform the strategies I mentioned. But the things I point out are large household size, relatively younger population with a high percentage of Hispanic population. And what becomes very important is also understanding our trade area. So we looked at a lot of the metrics that we're talking about in a 1 mile, 3 mile, 5 mile. We also looked at drive times. So our findings is that average household incomes are relatively high. There's a very dense population in the city as well as within those different radii, and drive times, which if our end user and consumer is a retailer and or a developer, those are very beneficial numbers and beneficial information to them, and that's the kind of information they're looking for at the end of the day. So this, we go through graphically some of the distribution of demographics and income. Relatively low bachelor degree and higher, although I'm very impressed by some of the student scholarships and the advancement into higher education that we just heard about tonight. It's very helpful. The population from a consumer standpoint is an urban, technologically savvy, multi-generational consumer, which is also very important to the end user and retailer and developer. Unemployment at about 7.4%. And I want to get into just a little bit of employment and where people work in the industries. The jobs within the cities are geared toward healthcare, social assistance, educational services, and retail trade. And we've identified through a couple of different resources, including HDL, some of the major employers within the city that reflect those industries. I want to pause here for a second and take a look at this slide because this helps us understand how many people come into the city of Baldwin Park every day to work and how many folks leave. So you can see that there are more folks leaving than coming. It's not the end of the world because many cities have this immigration of folks going out for jobs, and a lot of them go to Los Angeles, if you will, which is a major hub. But it also tells us that about almost 16,000 people come into the city every day to work, and it helps us define daytime population. We have traffic counts that we evaluated. And then from a market standpoint, in the eastern San Gabriel Valley, Baldwin Park's retail vacancy is very low, which is a positive thing in so much as that could be a driver of demand of retail. And I'll show you this in the sales numbers, that we really want to try to, in a sense, attract retailers because you have such a low vacancy. So that might be redevelopment or development of different opportunity sites, which we'll get into in a little bit. So at 2.7%, it fares very well compared to the eastern San Gabriel Valley. Overall retail vacancy of 4.6%. I want to spend some time on sales. We made a comparison to surrounding cities, and we'll spend some time here, but the projected sales for City of Baldwin Park is about $566 million. And you can see that if you're going to compare that to a West Covina or an Arcadia or an El Monte, which are in the billions of dollars, some of those figures are a function of their population, but it clearly is a function of how much retail they have and how much retail they have that's drawing into their cities. And a very telling statistic is not just the 566 million, but it's those dollars divided by your population. So this helps us make a better comparison of apples to apples with the cities surrounding. And you can see that Baldwin Park at $7,500 of retail sales per capita is on the lower end. Again, an argument where we would want to try to drive and push retail sales to improve so that we can be better, more competitive, if you will, with cities that surround us. We've analyzed on a category by category basis and a city by city comparison basis how the city fares, and I won't go into the details here. The other part of this presentation is you have this PowerPoint, and I think it's at your leisure an opportunity for you to go ahead and review the data. And certainly if there's any questions, you can come back to staff, or it's a better way to absorb all of this information when you have some time. This is another area where I want to pause for a second. We look at sales capture and sales leakage. It's a pretty interesting statistic for Baldwin Park. What this says is that the $7,500 per capita, those are the cash registers ringing within your city. The $7,600 per capita are the wallets of the citizens spending within the city. So in a sense, you're almost at equilibrium. It's not as if you're losing lots of dollars in the aggregate or gaining lots of sales tax dollars. But you can see that cities like Duarte, Monrovia, Arcadia, Covina, they're capturing sales tax dollars, which means that many folks, probably from here and other places, are going there to shop. So the argument, again, is to try to make that draw and appeal to some of the retailers and developers in the marketplace on the private sector to try to come to Baldwin Park, subject to opportunity sites. This is the overall sales capture or leakage. We then also break that down by category. So it's very important. In overall, you might be break even, but this shows us that clothing is leaking dollars out the door. General merchandise, you're capturing dollars. Furniture and home furnishings, you're leaking. And sporting goods, hobby, and music, you're leaking, and also food and beverage, which is grocery stores. So we try to take this information and then look at the retailer voids, which is the next section, and try to target certain retailers that we may be able to go after to try to make up for these categories. If you took those leaking categories and you divided them by sales tax per square foot or sales projection per foot, you would come up with a certain square footage that might be supportable. These are the kind of arguments we want to make to the private sector and the retailers, that you have supportable square footage in those categories. This is a picture, if you will, of all the other retail shopping center hubs that are draws, that are some evidence with some of those other sales tax dollars and where they're going to shop. And then we took a look at, on a pretty high level, national retailer voids. But then we wanted to further define that just based on the knowledge we have of the marketplace and some of the retailers that are growing. So this is an initial list. It's not a comprehensive list, but it's interesting. We put this list together, and Grocery Outlet was on that list. Aldi is on that list. A Burlington Coat Factory, TJ Maxx, Tuesday Morning Steinmart to try to capture some of those clothing sales that are leaking. And, of course, the grocery sales that are leaking could be the Grocery Outlets and Aldis who are growing, who are expanding. Also, the restaurants. Lots of restaurants are going and expanding, and I think that there's more opportunity within the city to attract those restaurants as well, including sit-down restaurants. So this helps us also go target some of these retailers at some of the conferences that are coming up, which is really part of our implementation. We took a look in this section at all the opportunity sites in conjunction with staff. We toured the city. Many of these are freeway-oriented, which is very helpful. and some of these are a little bit more interior or internal, we would ultimately try to take this information on opportunity sites and match them with those retailers and or developers. And in doing that, we would create marketing material for them. That's really part of one of our next steps. Particularly, this is a site that's across from the planned LA Fitness. You got freeway-oriented sites here, a vacant building, what I think was a former Shakey's, and then in particular a former Walgreens, which frankly I was touring the city before the city council meeting tonight, and I drove by this intersection and I sat there and I thought, this is really a strong intersection. And you have a vacant building that I think has a lot of opportunity to be backfilled. So it's a particular site that we can, again, use our marketing material and try to go market on behalf of the city. We also list some of the economic development tools that are available today, because in many instances, without redevelopment, there needs to be the help of some of these mechanisms and financing tools. So we're very keen and very well versed in using some of these tools. And this is just a graphic of a list of many of those tools in the many different categories. So as for next steps, I went through this very quickly, but as for next steps, we really want to take those opportunity sites, use the information and data that we gained, incorporate them into marketing material, and simple marketing material, but marketing material that's meant to get the attention of some of the targeted retailers and developers, and put those on one-page marketing flyers, and then go have meetings. And a lot of this business, because I've been in it for a long time as a shopping center professional and as a leader within the ICSC, which is the retail industry group, for 15 years, is there's a relationship aspect to the business. So it's trying to take the material and really promote those sites and really educate, if you will, the private sector and create a bridge. So that's really a big part of our next step, and working with staff as well. The conference that's coming up next, it's an ICSC conference, is in San Diego. It's a Western conference. It should have about 4,000 people at it, which is what it had last year. I've run the conference in the past. It's very productive, and the goal is to try to bridge that gap to the private sector, where you'll have many retailers and many developers. And that's at the end of August. So our timing is pretty good. And the goal is to try to prepare that marketing material, set those meetings, and go. And really some of it is continue that relationship building. Some of it is planting seeds. Some of it is introducing Baldwin Park to some of the folks on their side of the table. And then it's working together with them and hopefully having them come back and take a tour. It's just a sample of some of the marketing flyers that we've done for other cities, and that's the kind of look and feel that tends to be pretty successful. We've done this a lot. And so we know that it's not an easy process, but it's a process that's the best one to embark upon. And really, that's it. I wanted to go through things in a pretty succinct fashion, as suggested by staff. And the document, by all means, is a content-rich document. The information in it is content-rich. We do these for a lot of cities. Many times these PowerPoints end up on websites, they get synthesized, they get utilized, and that's the goal. So we're here to continue to work with the city. And I'm available for
Mayor, I saw the
yes,
Councilman. First, want to thank you. It's a very thorough study, and I think it provides a lot of valuable information for our staff to move forward to better develop a lot of the projects that we're doing here in the city. So I just wanted to ask you if you go back to where you showed the leakage of the different categories that we have. And I know that, for example, the city, if we look at the city that has the least, I guess, leakage is the city of Duarte. And what are some of the elements that they have that help them have less leakage? I mean, I know they have a lot of good retail stores. They have a freeway. They're on both sides of that freeway, and they seem to have developed pretty well those sites there. But I guess my question is in the City of Baldwin Park on our 10 freeway, we have a number of, as you pointed out, a number of sites that are possibly available for development. Would they appeal to some of the stores that you recommended, some of the retailers that you're recommending that we should seek?
Well, I think the idea of the city of Baldwin Park having the 10 freeway basically run through it is what I'll call a strength. And I've always said to every city, leverage your strengths. You know, the long ago, there was the site that Super Walmart ended up on because it was freeway oriented. And the other opportunity sites, to your point, are freeway oriented. So I think the answer is yes. We want to try to leverage that freeway because of how many cars go by it every single day and create a regionality or a regional draw to those opportunity sites, which I think is basically what's going on in Monrovia and Duarte.
Okay. Do you see that Ramona Boulevard and Arrow Highway is also other? I know there's a lot of traffic that goes through there, through those two thoroughfares, but is there a way to also leverage them to be able to attract more retail?
Well, I think there is. I mean, I think many of these intersections, like Puente and Francisquito, for example, the amount of traffic and the infill aspect and nature of those intersections are very strong to those growing retailers in the marketplace. The retail industry has changed pretty dramatically in that it's shrunk a lot and changed a lot, and food has become a big driver of retail. The intersections where it's infill and there's traffic and you have strong population and incomes around it, 360 degrees especially, are very key intersections, I think, for us to focus on.
Now, you've also identified that other than Baldwin Park, there's also outside markets. I'm not sure what that's part is, but you showed that there's other distances that we could capture markets outside of the city.
Yes.
As well as sort of there's a time that people would take, some people don't mind driving 10 minutes to Baldwin Park to go to a Old Navy store or something like that.
Right, and to that end, the reality of trade areas for retailers is that it's not so much a city boundary per se. We have good data on within city boundaries. It many times is a 1 mile, 3 mile, 5 mile, 10 mile radii, and also those radii, those are just circles. The idea of a shape of a trade area, like a polygon, which is a custom shape, which is a function of the trend of consumers driving, freeway barriers, mountain barriers, other competition. That's really what goes into the consumer that will drive X, miles and X distance to come and shop someplace or eat someplace.
Oh, very well. Okay, thank you. Excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Councilmember Cruz Baca.
On this particular chart, does that include, because I know Monrovia and Duarte have car dealerships, does that include the car dealerships?
It does, and you really, I meant to suggest that why there's such a draw.
Yes.
Because you would look at Monrovia and Duarte and say, wait a second, what is it? Many times you'll see these auto dealerships. We've done work in Central Valley, Central California, and there's a particular city that doesn't have that much retail, but it has Auto Row. And it has a huge draw, and those revenues that come into that city and these cities are oftentimes a function of those regional pulls, and they're coming from outside necessarily of their city boundaries because they might be auto-related, there might be a car dealership, auto dealerships, and they're not going to just end up being in every single city. They're going to congregate.
And then Arcadia has the mall and the racetrack.
Correct.
Now they have a free shuttle that takes you from the goal line to either the mall and the racetrack or both. And then it'll take you back to the goal line, which is a phenomenal thing to do in order to be able to attract people to come into your city and, like you said, and spend the money. Covina. So I think that Baldwin Park, since it's one of the lower besides La Puente, I think that you're on the right track. I've always mentioned that it would be perfect for us to have a Marshalls or a TJ Maxx or some retail store at that capacity where the people wouldn't mind. We get a lot of traffic, as you know probably from your studies, that they take Ramona Boulevard, they take Main Street, they take Ballpark Boulevard off of the freeways, onto the freeways. And I think that with all that traffic, people would very much, I know that I've done it in the past when I've had to drive back in traffic. I'd rather stop somewhere and either shop or get something to eat and wait for the traffic to die down before getting back on the freeway. And I would really like to see, because Baldwin Park is the hub, that's why we're named the hub, so that, when someone gets off of the 605 or the 10 or even the 210, huge, and they say, you know what, there's a great place over here, or you know what, I need to do some shopping. The grocery outlet, I think, is a great plus to our community right now. So I'm hoping, that we can bring some of those other retail stores to attract more attention.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments.
I also have I want to ask a question and see if you have recommendations. So, for example, I've been driving through Duarte for many years now, and just like in the last year, I've seen, I believe, 3 major developments. For example, they have the grocery outlet that's opening up, Starbucks. They also had a housing development right next to the golf course, and they have just so much open land, and that is why they're able to develop and bring this revenue in. What is your suggestion since we don't have a lot of land to offer?
Well, it's a good point. So another example in Duarte is Ralph's closed. And it was an opportunity because it's an existing building for Smart and Final to come in. Even though Smart and Final didn't need the entire building, they came in and took a portion of it. So there is a lot to be said for existing vacant real estate that can be filled. So as an example, if we think Burlington Coat Factory could be a candidate because they could fill a void of clothing, let's just say, or TJ Maxx for that matter, they're going to look sometimes at where there's vacant buildings to backfill. So that's a big part of what we want to try to consider in terms of opportunity sites. I think some of the sites along the freeway, though, have good regionality and really they're good opportunities, and they're probably not necessarily at their highest and best use. So we could zero in on that. The Walgreens building is vacant on Puente. So there's 14,000 square feet that I think could be a real good chance for someone to come in and take that building over. So you do have opportunities within the city.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mayor,
Vice Mayor,
yes,
Monica
thank you.
Garcia.
I just want to comment that I really like this presentation. I wish we had more time to, really take a deeper dive. But this leakage is an important one, and doing the analysis of the opportunity sites is so important. I'm glad that it's been completed before the ICSC conference, so I can't wait to see what's going to come of those conversations. And I was also noticing the leakage and the sales per capita. And Almani, surprisingly, they have a car dealership, but they're pretty low in comparison to Monrovia and Duarte. Yeah. So it seems to me like it's about that synergy. It's about creating, multiple uses that people gravitate towards, and it's not just one type of use that's going to carry, the community. So it'll be interesting to see what mix of retail and uses, you come up with and engage with some of those partners to see what comes of those conversations. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. And frankly, the city, Baldwin Park, should be commended on pursuing what we call economic development. Mm-hmm. This avenue and platform and strategy, because it is how you can try to get ahead, or come from behind, so to speak, because we want to try to improve the information that we've come up with.
Go ahead.
No, just wanted to clarify, and economic development is your strong suit, correct? That is what you focus in priority in your business.
Economic development, Cosmo Companies has done public-private transaction structuring that's resulted in projects necessarily, lots of negotiations, developer solicitation, fiscal impact analyses. It's a pretty deep firm in terms of its services, and having been around for 30 years, we've worked a lot. I particularly have a retail background, so we do a lot of retail strategies for different cities as well.
I have one more question, and I know that you guys did the Azalea Park in Southgate, correct? Was that a vacant land, or were you able to take over something that was vacant?
Yeah, it was a pipe manufacturing plant that ceased to operate, and it was interestingly enough, it was in a very good location in terms of Firestone and Atlantic that was really well suited for retail, that could serve a population that was underserved by retail. And so it was a little bit, I want to say, moon and stars aligning, because that site, had it not ceased to operate, not really sure whether we would have been able to do our project. It was more complicated than that, and it took a lot of work and effort, and it definitely had a focus on trying to create a retail project there that was a sales tax revenue generator that ended up serving an underserved community. So all those things went into that puzzle.
So did you dismantle or take down the entire structure, or were you able to use some of it to
No,
incorporate it? Was it
It
from
was really
scratch?
turned out to really be a ground-up development. And the other aspect of Cosmon and what we were involved there is financing. So we have a very, very strong financing arm, if you will. So we work in the public finance realm as a financial advisor, if you will, and we put creative financing aspects together for projects and for cities. So, we can work on bond deals and different type of creative financing strategies. And in that case, particularly Southgate, it didn't have redevelopment in that particular area. So it was really done without redevelopment, even though redevelopment was still in place at that time.
Okay, thank you.
I have one
Yes,
one
go
more
ahead,
question.
yes.
Did you do the Costco in San Fernando where it was a price fister? And it's on the corner of San Fernando Road, because that whole area, it's basically the same thing. It was Price Pfister, a factory that had been there for many years but closed down for many years, and that was a Costco. That's a Costco now. Right. And what they did all around it, they did build from a Starbucks to a Chipotle to everything that's around there now. So it's very nice.
Yeah. The other project we worked on actually was in Victorville, which was a mall, which was really a dying mall. And we had to come up with a creative financing strategy to get that mall revived. And another one that took a lot of time and a lot of work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to say, first of all, I want to apologize that I'm late. I was attending a funeral of a Baldwin Park graduate at 17 years old who ended up with cancer. A lot of people were there, but nevertheless, I just want to say that this is really extensive, and I think it's definitely a good tool for potential businesses coming to Baldwin Park, especially where it says our jobs coming or going, and the statistics that you guys have there, all in general, are really good. So I just want to compliment you and the team that put this together, because I think we had one done like this, but years ago, and I think that this is a lot more meticulous in data, and I think it's something that we could really use to be able to look at Baldwin Park in much more depth.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you. Council members have, yes.
Just one more question, I'm sorry. In compiling all your data, what was your process? Or I know this is taking a long time, and I'm sorry to be asking another question, but what was your process in order to be compiling all the data?
Archie worked till midnight every night.
Somehow I don't believe that.
No. I will tell you the process. To me, a big part of it is the front end, which is touring the city. And then having some of the information, which we actually shared with you some time back in a study session, but having the information, and then you have to understand kind of, first of all, I might have said this, who Baldwin Park is. That's the first step. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, what are we, who are we, and what direction can we go? That data informs that process. And then it's, okay, what's the strategy? And the strategy today with retail, as I've said, is while the boxes are shrinking, another part of it is growing. So there's a matchmaking aspect to what we've come up with. And now the work starts. We want to go to work and try to implement. So it's a big part of that process, which is pretty consistent with how we do things, because we really are hands-on, so to speak. But this information, as I said, is your information. It's yours to leverage, utilize, whether it's through the internet and through your website, or summarization, or more marketing material on a citywide basis, site-specific marketing material. And we're here to help continue to also update it as it needs to be. So that's a big part of our process.
Mayor, let me go ahead, and I just need to add something to that, because I worked for a real estate development company. And I know that companies rely on data. They rely on analysis. It's not enough that I feel very passionately about my community and that I want to sing all the accolades to bring business to this community, because that's not what's going to make their decision at the end of the day. So this information, it's foundation, and it's very critical to the conversations that you are now going to initiate and embark on. But what I really appreciated about Cosmon is that brokerage capability, like you say, the matchmaking and the relationships, because that's something that is very unique to the private sector, I think. And I'm just looking forward to what you're going to bring back to us as far as putting that matchmaking together and seeing, what some of those mixed uses and proposals can do for our community. So I'm looking forward to that brokerage capability that you guys are going to embark on.
I appreciate those comments. A lot of what my role tends to be is, because of my leadership role at ICSC, is a real understanding of the people on the other side of that equation. And you're right, they still need information. It's one thing to pick up the phone and say, hey, this is great. It's another thing to prove certain metrics that they need, because if you think about the folks that we deal with, that I deal with, that I know, they have to answer to a corporation as well, or a larger entity, to get an approval to make the private investment. So you're right, it's more than just the surface and passion of it all. That goes a long way, and you all have good knowledge and good passion, and so you're part of that process, frankly.
And one more thing, that's the important thing, is to be able to incorporate that particular community and not make it into a cookie cutter. So it's wonderful, Duarte, Monrovia, Arcadia, Covina, I frequent, and like all of us do, those cities, but what is the best thing for Baldwin Park? Right. And that's the key thing, is to understand not only the demographics, but our community. What are the wants of our people? Who are the people that are leaving, like you said, that should be staying here to shop? Right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. At this point, we got Councilmember Susan Rubio.
And I'm sorry, because I was listening to the retail aspect of it, but I also heard you say in between that you also do the loan aspect of it, correct? I know. That you negotiate the loans?
Well, we
were talking about the Azalea, and then you said that you were part of that. Can you explain that further?
We had a lot to do with the public financing components, which were several in the case of Azalea. The city's involvement and participation in a way where they had to widen a street and there was remnant land that was available for development. There was an EDA grant. There was a new market tax credit. There were other types of loans and grants that were pursued. Ultimately, there was a document, which I think was known as an infrastructure financing agreement. So it was pretty complicated. And so our ability to advise in the financing aspects of projects, which is really that public-private transaction, and or issuing bonds, we had to go get a bond rating for a utility bond, ultimately. So those creative financing strategies we're very engaged in.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, council members. If not at this point, I want to thank you very much for the presentation. Excellent study. So looking forward. Thank you very much. Yeah. All right, at this point, real quick, let me just read off before I go on is the announcements. This is to announce as required by Government Code Section 54952.3. Members of the City Council are also members of the Board of Directors of the Housing Authority and Finance Authority, which are concurrently convening with the City Council this evening, and each council member is paid an additional stipend of $30 for attending the Housing Authority meeting and $50 for attending the Finance Authority meeting. So at this point, just want to say that for the record. So at this point, I'd like to open up the public communication. Anyone wishing to speak, you have approximately 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Margarita Vargas. I just want to say that Luz Mercado, the one that you give him a recognition right now, she got a scholarship from the Women's Club too for $1,000. So I just want to let you know that.
Sorry, I forgot.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and also Chief. My name is David Diaz, pastor of New Beginning Community Ministries. I think we gave you some handouts there so that you're able to see more or less what I'm talking about. I wanted to come and share with you what we're going to be doing on August 27th. That's going to be from 10 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We have what is called a CAREX outreach. It's really a day of serving our community. It's about a 2.5 mile radius. We're looking to impact or to help anywhere from 400 and 500 homes with about 200 volunteers. We're helping them in their needs. Now, I realize, because I'm a pastor and I do a lot of ministry, not only just in the church, but outside of the church. I realize that in these areas, there's either widows, there's the elderly, there's those that stop trying to either fix up their homes, or maybe they're not taking care of their property. So we're helping them to be able to do that. That's a list of some of the things that we're going to be doing. There's even people in those areas that may be battling addictions, of which we can help them. We can, be able to either help them ourselves or refer them to wherever they need help. But on that day, we're going to be going out. We're going to be doing a lot of different things. We will not be doing any new projects, but we will be helping them with whatever is broken down, whatever needs to be repaired, whatever needs to be fixed, like, for instance, a porch that's broken down. We will obtain the lumber ourselves. We will paint it. We will do whatever they need to be able to do that. We also just started an employment and education department. So if some people need to be able to find jobs, we can help them also to find jobs. We just started this ministry or this department. And then last of all, we will be praying for people. Anybody that wants prayer, we will be praying for them. We realize that many people are suffering from maybe depression, or they're just withdrawn, or maybe they're just within themselves. We came across a gentleman that had not talked to anybody for months, and somebody was able to help him and bring him out of his shell, help him out in his home. And I believe that there are people out there, but this is our community. We serve here in Baldwin Park. We want to do everything that we can to be able to help them. One area that we will need help in, or you can give me the information what to do. There are some houses that are totally, they got junk, they got stuff, they got all kinds of stuff there. We need information on trash bins. We have large teams that will be going in, cleaning out everything. So we're left with a dilemma. What do we do with the trash? So if you can give me some information later on, we'd really appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Just want to let you know, Pastor Diaz, tomorrow's our concert, so if you want to come by about 7:30, I'll put you up on the actual stage and we'll let everyone know. It's about 1,000 people there.
Okay,
Ready?
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if maybe, Pastor, you can get in touch with our staff in regards to the waste that you were talking about,
Okay.
that you created,
Yes.
the waste management.
Waste management.
Could probably work with you on that, possibly as a nonprofit.
Okay.
And just kind of at no cost, maybe help you. I don't know, but I don't know, staff.
Yeah, because it would be for the people. So not, it
Right.
wouldn't be. Yeah, it would
That's
be for
fine.
the people.
Yeah.
Is Terry Muse here
So
today?
far,
She's sick.
Oh, okay, all right.
if our city manager, if you could contact the pastor and see what their needs are there.
Yeah, we'll get someone, Pastor, we could get their number and then have Mr. Gutierrez or someone, then we'll get Terry Muse.
Okay.
All right, thank you,
I can
Pastor.
definitely get
Thank
your
you.
number. We do have waste management staff here, so we can.
Oh, okay, all righty.
And thank you very much for everything that you do here for our community. I know you were here praying for our officers the other day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Mary Torregrosa, resident of Baldwin Park, and I work in El Monte. And on my commute home the other day, short commute home, I noticed that there were 3 separate family units of bicycle riders. So that was about 15 people on the road riding bikes, children and adults, in both El Monte and coming into Baldwin Park. And if it's that noticeable to me, then I'm thinking to myself, this is a trend that the city and the community center should support and get behind and be sort of proactive to these families and these people who take bike riding as a new mode of transportation. So I would just like to suggest that the community center offer all types of opportunities for bicyclists to come together and families to come together and learn about safety on the road and things like that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, moving along. I'll make a comment at the end about that. We have an organization.
Hello, City Council, everybody. You guys passed the budget. I don't know what's wrong with you people up here. Mr. Pacheco, Garcia, and the mayor. You people, you don't care what you spend, huh? It's not. This is our money. Everybody that's here, including you folks, it's our money. Why do you throw it away so foolishly? You act like you don't care, Mr. Pacheco, Mr. Mayor and Mrs. Garcia over here, you people spend money like it growing on trees. I've yet to find one that grows money on trees. But you people are ridiculous. You know what, Mr. Pacheco? You go to church, I'm pretty sure, every week, every day, every time there's a holiday, you run to church. You must be embarrassed. Look at this. I know you don't care. Because if you did, you'd resign and run down and hide somewhere. I know. You're same thing as always. I'm going to hang on to this and see what Mr. Taylor or anybody else does anything. The rest of you people of the city council should be very alert. But no, you'll fall asleep and do nothing. Because people like him get radical and go way beyond. It's happened everywhere in this country. Everywhere. So you people be alert. Be honest with each other. And the chief, he's going to have to be alert more than us. So you people have to understand. You work, I know I tell you this every time I come here, but you guys don't understand. Excuse me? You people don't understand. You guys work for us. That includes you guys and you ladies. You work for all of us. But you don't do that. You pass the budget. You don't even know where the hell the money's at. You do not know where the money is. If the clock was any larger, I'd miss it. You people have to understand, you're spending our taxpayers' money. And every business here is the same way. You guys want, the gentleman presented a nice presentation. Biggest problem with that, income. We don't have sufficient income people working here to pay for what he wants. Oh, get a bond. Uncle Sam will help you out. Who ends up with the other share? Us, including you folks. Think about it. When you do something, it should be for the benefit of all of us, not a certain group. 2 seconds ago. 1. Oh, I ran out of time.
All right, thank you. Good evening. Okay, next speaker. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Diane Velez. I've been here before. I'm a resident of Baldwin Park, also a volunteer with Bike San Gabriel Valley. In light of the recent crash and death of a bicyclist through Baldwin Park, I just also wanted to remind the City Council and also members of the city that support bicycling and also drivers to be out there and be more careful. But in reality, to be vigilant, you also have to be active. Bike San Gabriel Valley is the advocacy organization for San Gabriel Valley, and that includes the city of Baldwin Park. We also host bike commuter courses for people that already know how to ride a bike but want to have more skills to be vigilant. At the end of the 3-hour course, the person receives free lights and also a helmet. That is not to say that a helmet is the only security that they will have while they are on the road. It's also up to drivers. And I personally, for me, taking a course like that made me a better and a safer driver because I was more vigilant on the road. I would also like to extend an invitation for different collaborations and also for the council to come take a class. I think it would be a great example, and it would also give you experience of what it's like to be out there on the road and the dangers that we face. I'd also like to support the other community members that have came up to speak and support bicycling because it is a different mode of transportation that I personally take from Baldwin Park into Almani. And I think it's also a bit of an embarrassment to feel safer in a different city while I'm riding, where I would want to feel safe in my own too. I do have flyers for the different courses that we offer. They are completely free. And again, we're willing to collaborate with any organization, schools, or possibly have some of the council members come out to the classes. I'll leave flyers in the back too.
Diane,
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. I have a question if you don't mind. You're Diane Velez, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm definitely interested. Have you been already coordinating with somebody here in the city to make sure that we get that information?
Yes, there is someone. I have dropped off flyers at Morgan Park, and there are also different collaborations throughout the city going on that we have contacts with.
Okay, thank you very
much. Are you
much.
available to come to the concert tomorrow? Put you on the stage.
I'm not available. I have class on Thursday nights, but we can probably get a representative to come out if we can get a volunteer.
It doesn't happen tomorrow, next week, okay? Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I
Yes.
think just in reference to what she's talking about is maybe the city could put out more share the road signs with bicyclists. And I've seen that in a lot of cities, and maybe I haven't seen too many in Baldwin Park, but maybe our public works staff could put more share the road where we have our bicycle lanes and on the public streets, because that does kind of help, to alert the drivers that there are bike riders in town. So.
I think definitely share the road, but there's also different avenues to take that. So there's even creating more bike lanes, separated bike lanes for bicyclists and from cars, and definitely also advocacy. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of drivers out there that don't know rules of the road for a bicyclist and that they can take over an entire lane.
Just really quickly, Manny Correa, there's questions for you. Have you been handling the communication with this young lady? Just out of curiosity.
Yes, we've chatted a few times, but we have our consultant, Mr. Perez, in the back of the room that's been coordinating some of the activities.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I know that
Go
this
ahead.
isn't a time for
That's fine.
discussion, but I did want to address this particular about bike safety with the chief.
Sure.
We have had a phone conversation, but I just wanted to
Yes,
sort of see if
absolutely.
there was something we could step up. So can I do it at the end of
Absolutely.
the? All right, thank you.
All right, we'll allow with public communication.
San Rios resident. Here we go with the clock. Around a month ago, I asked you, Mayor, on that percentage of the raise you guys give yourselves, if it was against the Brown Act, and I still haven't gotten no answer on it. Maybe the lawyer can look it up, okay? But a 30-some% increase just on a raise for you guys is a little too much, when the city workers are only getting 2%. Okay? Another thing is that it's something that the community was wondering what was happening. Why is it a part-timer getting benefits like that? Allowance for cars, for telephones. It's something that you guys are elected. According to some individuals, you guys are elected, not city employees, so you guys shouldn't be getting no raises. A part-timer doesn't get no benefits, doesn't get retirement or anything. According to the state does say that a part-timer is a part-timer. And city council and city mayors are part-timers, okay? Another thing is that I've gone to the people at Barnes Park, and they're totally fed up with the soccer league. What is it going to take for them to do for you guys to put a stop to it? Okay? Another thing is that why do we take away the graffiti from the weekend crew, but we can pick up for the Caltrans? Now the workers are picking up for Caltrans. Do we get a contract through Caltrans or something? No. Another thing, Chief, I'm sorry to say, but we need to have more people, more of your officers go through Barnes Park. It's getting ridiculous with drugs again. And it's, cars parked in the parking lot where they're not supposed to. They've been there for almost 2 weeks on some of the cars, okay? So if you could have somebody go over that, especially after 10 o'clock, we get a little bunch, they go in there. So if you could please have them go around. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're along with public communication. Anyone wishing to speak? You have 2 minutes. Thomas Carey. Haven't seen you in a while. 3 minutes. Sorry about that.
We haven't had a meeting in a while.
What did he say?
Okay.
Okay.
Good. I couldn't resist
there.
that. Okay. This Cosmot gives quite a presentation. But they went through the things so fast you couldn't see what was what. He only wanted us to see what they wanted us to see, period. Those places, Duarte, Monrovia, and Arcadia, those incomes up there and the property values are very high in those places. He should be comparing apples to apples. La Purini is a good choice, Bassett, places like that. Things that are similar to here. Not the fancy areas over there. Of course, their incomes and things are going to be completely different and real high. Sure. It's a skewed. That's the way I see it. It's skewed. They went through the things so damn fast you couldn't see the things I wanted to see. I didn't get a chance to see. They made certain of that. And for the other people that live here, because they're the ones who are going to be affected by these things in future decisions. Before I forget, though, Microsoft Windows 10, do not upgrade to that. I did. My computer's in the shop. It crashed. I'm having it reloaded with Windows 7, what it came with. So do not, it'll put on the screen to upgrade. You have limited time. It's a free upgrade. Do not upgrade. I just thought everybody should know that. This is a perfect forum for exposing that. There's a lot of problems with Windows 10. If you want your stuff to disappear and that upgrade, you'll love the misery you're going to get. I didn't have much on there to lose, so it wasn't a big deal. I'm having it corrected down there at Best Buy. The other thing is this: these people killing the police. I don't understand how they think they're helping themselves with that. What are they going to do if somebody takes it out on the people that are protesting and do that to them, like they're doing to the police? I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't know why they don't use a water cannon and wet these people and spray them with water and get them the hell out of the street and get them off the freeway and other places. They don't have a right to impede people's progress. We're not in North Korea or some rotten place like that. It almost borders on false imprisonment. I believe they can be arrested for that. They're keeping people from getting to where they want to go. What if somebody's family is dying and they can't get there in time because these idiots are blocking the street? Anybody, I mean, it's ridiculous. Oh, your little toy.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you. Mulan with Public Communication. Anyone else wishing? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Abel Labels Transmissions. I've been in business for 25 years in Baldwin Park and 35 living in Baldwin Park. The reason I come over here because around my shop in Garden View, it's very dark in the nighttime, too much graffiti and drug dealers. I have all the signature for my neighbors. Can I give it to somebody?
Mayor, yes, I'd like you, if you could pass that on to the Public Works Director. We're currently doing revamping a lot of our street lighting. You happen to come at the right time, so maybe, I don't know, staff could take a look at his area where he lives and maybe put a light pole in there. I think do you have some paperwork on that? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, you forward it to him and they'll get back to me, us on that. Is that okay,
They
Mayor?
told me a few times, this and the environment is told a few times on business.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. All right, thank you very much. At this point, anyone else wishing to speak, please state your name, your address. Excuse me, your name. You have approximately 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. Danny Damian, resident and business owner. Mayor Lozano, on April 20th, I raised concerns about you using money from the Business Improvement Tax Fund to pay for the 4th of July fireworks show. I also asked you, on top of the $21,000, what would it cost us for extra police and staff? Your statement on April 20th that was recorded on audio and is on record states that it was not going to cost more than $21,000. The total cost you spent from the Business Improvement Fund was $36,000, not $21,000. So I ask, what is the accurate and true cost of the 4th of July extravaganza? Other than the fireworks show, what are the additional charges that the city incurred? Where can I find the list of these expenses? On June 20th, you passed the 2016-2017 fiscal budget, and it not only shows the $36,000 you spent on the 4th of July show, but a whole list of things that should not be paid from this particular fund. You are spending $214,380 and leaving the Business Improvement Tax Fund with only $55,627. We are paying $46,380 for the Baldwin Park now. I have here an agreement between the city and the school district where the school district agrees to pay $9,000 for a one-year advertisement agreement. The fiscal impact states that this agreement will generate $9,000 towards the BP Now advertisement revenue account. Is this the same account that you're going to deposit all of the money that you collect for the other advertisements that you businesses pay into this Baldwin Park Now, along with the $9,000 from the school district? Or what account or fund is this going to be deposited into? Is it going to go back to the Business Improvement Tax Fund? We're also paying $24,000 for the concerts at the park. I noticed that you have sponsors for concerts at the park. Last week, you recognized Longo Toyota for sponsoring $1,000. If you have sponsors, then why is the Baldwin Park businesses paying for this concert? What fund is all the money that you're getting from the sponsors and the booth vendors going to be deposited into? The farmers market. The reason why you voted for that was because it was supposed to bring the city revenue, not the other way around. Now we're stuck paying $15,000 for a farmers market that's not even as successful as the one we've had in the last 2 years. The anniversary parade. What does that have to do with the businesses? Are all the floats going to be made up of businesses business owners promoting their businesses? I, as a business owner, don't want to see $23,000 of our money being spent to see you on the float. The economic and downtown services. What is this expense for? Don't you think that you, Pacheco, and Garcia have given away enough of our taxpayers' money to your consultant buddies? Please explain to us what the $62,000 on economic and downtown services is for. On March 2nd, you assigned an executive team as the advisory, Business Improvement Advisory Committee made up of the city manager, police chief, public works, finance, and parks and recs directors. This has to be some type of joke. Why is there no real business owners from the community on this advisory committee? Yes, I'll leave my copy.
All right, thank you, appreciate that, and then we'll definitely respond to that. Yeah, we'll give it over to Rose, the finance director. No, that's fine. Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's fine. Go ahead. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, this point, moving on, public communication.
Greg Tuttle, business owner. I too would like a full accounting, which I'll go in and do a public request on it with Rose and find out where all this money is going, because you're drawing out of one account, but I don't see anything where you're putting back in and stealing the business money, which has never been done in the years of Baldwin Park. But because you guys mismanaged the money, you now took from the businesses that you assess a 90% assessment fee on their business license, which was done through your VJ back in the day. The other thing is vector cards. I was up in city clerk's office and reviewing vector cards, which totally don't have any names of any residents. You're not required to give a resident's name, address, or anything else, or registered voter, or property owner. And these cards were filled out. I filled out several cards. I found just a couple that were filled out by me. I want to know where the rest of them went. The rest of the no's went. This was a bogus deal. Sid Masavi's company got paid over $15,000 to do this thing that we could have had management do. We didn't need a genius to figure this one out. And it was ramrodded through in 1 week. What a joke. And if you guys pass this tonight, I guarantee you there's going to be consequences on it in legal issue. We also have a consultant company, California Consultants, which Chief Taylor's used, that did nothing for them. We paid them several $1,000s. Don't quote me, but at least 18 to 20 some thousand that I found. And he's done nothing. Not one contract. But we continue to pay him every month because this guy's a buddy of Pacheco's. There's several other consultants that's on the buddy list of Pacheco. It needs to stop. We're over $300,000 in these consultant deals. We got Sid Masavi in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. We got rid of this guy once. You guys bring him back in again because he paid for your political campaigns. And his names are on there. And he's been doing the transit center too, back behind. We need to eliminate these consultants. We don't need them. If you can't hire competent people to work for the city and do these jobs, then you need to be replaced. Competent people like Dan Wall and Mark Castanola were here, you got rid of them because they wouldn't sign your phony budgets that you did with this Sid Masavi deal with this $100,000 limit to where you didn't have to come in for council approval. That's wrong. And you people have now going to pay the price for this, and it's all going to be exposed what's happening with this stuff. You have, I was upstairs and...
Thank you very much.
Wow.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
All right, moving along with public communication. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Beatrice Sandoval, VP Baldwin Park resident.
I'm sorry, did you want a translator? Or? Okay.
I think I'm okay. I want to say thank you for the celebration on July 4th, but I expect the celebration be better. I know Mr. Carrillo worked very hard. Also, I know you are there. But we think that the celebration need to give money at the city, not spend money, especially from grants from other things like the business. Like business owner, I'm very worried about how you spend the money from the business. I don't have any help or any desarrollo from my business. I don't have I don't receive anything from the city, and I pay my license every year, and I paid a lot of money. So I need to know why and where you spend the money from grants for the business. Also, I want to say thank you, Mr. Gutierrez, for being the meeting like last week and the church and San John the Baptist about the quiet zone from Metroline and show the resident what is the solution for the issue. And thank you for inviting me to the meeting, business, the city administration. For inviting me to the meeting. Thank you, Cruz, for inviting me too. So, but I'm worried too about the increased price, the trash, the waste management.
Right.
I'm very worried because when I signed my license 2 years ago, my bill increased 350%.
Oh.
That is a lot of money for the small business. I pay my taxes. I pay the county payments for taking out the oil, for filters, for many recycles. I pay a lot of money. I know I'm not going to pay the trash for the city, but no like more than electricity bill and the telephone bills. It's a lot of money for the small business. I appreciate that you put attention on the small business, and we need to grow up in our city. We need to give the good price for our communities. So we need to put more attention and the signed contract you sign with the companies, because I know they increase the bills every year. So thank you for listening to me and for understanding.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you. Moving along with public communication. The bell's just going on. Okay, the bell's still on. All right. So at this point, I want to thank everyone very much for the public communication. Just to let you know real quick, so what we'll do is I'll ask the CEO. The ballot questions came up that was just stated, and also by Mr. Tuttle and by Ms. Gentleman in the back. So we'll go ahead and bring that back so that we do the breakup of the expenditures as far as like the businesses, how that we utilize, including the 4th of July and the various types of funds that have been allocated there, so that everyone has a copy of that, and let's place that also on the internet as well. Because there's a multitude of things that were asked, so I want to make sure that we follow through on those roles, okay? So we get a report at the following meeting, as well as presenting them a copy as well, okay?
Mayor, I'd just like to add that that at the 4th of July celebration, I know some are more patriotic than others. Some of the community really supports having the 4th of July and bringing everybody back together. But I want you to notice that also there was a lot of business promotion there. The outlet, no, I'm sorry, what is that market called? The grocery outlet was there presented, and they promoted their grand opening there, as well as other businesses that were there. And they got a very good response when they did their grand opening, which was a couple of weeks ago on a Thursday and a Saturday. As a matter of fact, because of the promotion that the city did for them, they reached their revenue goals for those 3 days. And that company also has a lot of employees from Baldwin Park that are working there. There was other companies, I don't remember all their names, but they were all being there promoted. So for very low cost, individuals like yourself that want to promote your company, you could pretty much go to any city event and ask for a booth there. You could promote your company there. I mean, we're there, and these events are there to help the small businesses to promote themselves and to talk about the small business services that they offer, whether it's concerts in the park or the events that we have like 4th of July. So we have a lot of promotion that's built into it so that you can take advantage of that. You can talk to Manny Carrillo about that and talk about how you could participate, at that level. But on that note, the city of Baldwin Park, I mean, as far as I know, we've had more than 5 grand openings for businesses in the city. We had, a grocery outlet. We had Tony's Donuts. We had several others that, that Baldwin Park is really moving and changing and having a lot of new business growth. So I think that fares well for our city. It talks about a lot of the progress that we're trying to make. Our LA Fitness was on hold for a long time, and since we're making some adjustments in staff, that project it's on the go. If you go out there, there's bulldozers out there. They're really putting up that building as fast as they can, and there's the city got the stumbling blocks out of the way, and now we're really making progress. So it's large industries like that, large companies like that, retailers that come to the Baldwin Park because they see we really want to move the city forward. So it's something you can see. They're right there off the freeway. The LA Fitness is coming. And maybe Mayor could talk about on the end of that LA Fitness Center, they're going to do another another piece of the of some other businesses that are coming in there. They're going to do like a restaurant pad. And I'm not sure, Mayor, what were the businesses that are going to be on that restaurant pad at the end of LA Fitness?
Looking at Chipotle and the Coffee Bean and yogurt.
Right. So it just shows that Baldwin Park is really moving forward to bring a lot of strong businesses. We're really supporting businesses, and we're playing that role. And we want to make sure that everybody benefits from that. So thank you, Mayor.
All right. Yes. And I just want to say that ultimately, obviously, would probably want another major type of restaurant, Applebee's or TGI Friday and so on and so forth. I know one time we had talks with Applebee's. However, just to let everyone know, because a lot of people will say, well, why don't you bring those to Baldwin Park? Their survey or the way they work, some of these corporations, is based on the fact of proximity to one another. So in that perspective, that's one of the reasons why we cannot get some of those potential restaurants here, because of this proximity that's usually between some of the cities, and just to let everyone know. But all right, and real quick, one, I also talked about the bicycles that was mentioned, the bike rides throughout the city. We do have a program. We work, is it the San Gabriel Valley, Manny? Help me out with that. SGV?
Bike SGV.
We're very active, and I think it's online, and it's very important because a lot of people are utilizing their bikes out there, and it's important that we obviously be cautious with these individuals out on the road as well. All right, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and go.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, so Councilmember, yes.
What I wanted to mention is the principal thing.
Sure.
And I see it a lot up the street from me at the corner of Clark and Main. And it's older individuals that are riding a bike, and they just cut in front of you, so that you have to be very careful, especially if you're making a right-hand turn, because they come flying across the street there. So I think that, and I had mentioned it to Chief Taylor, that I think that we need to step up some of the safety procedures, or since they're adult individuals, I don't know if we have to resort to giving them a citation if they're going to be riding on the sidewalk or cutting in front of cars. Or I saw several people when I was trying to find parking for the concert last Thursday. It was unbelievable. Cars were just dodging them.
Wow.
So I think that there needs to be, some type of education where they realize that, that yes, we do have bike lanes, but they have to also respect that.
Very well. Okay, very well stated. All right, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and go into the actual consent calendar.
Mayor, can I
yes,
pull a couple of
members?
items?
Yes, Susan Rubio.
5, 6, 8, 9, and 10.
All right, so at this point, Councilmember Susan Rubio's request is consent calendar items 5, 6, 9, and 10. You said 8?
Yes.
Okay. Any other council members wishing to pull any others? If not at this point, I'll go ahead and move consent calendar with the exception of 5.
No, excuse me.
Yes, go ahead. Did you want?
I want 7 for explanation, if
All
you
right.
please.
All right, so that's...
Sorry.
That's fine, that's fine. All right, so at this point, I'll make...
Pay attention.
Consent calendar is my motion with the exception of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. That is my motion.
Second.
Second, any objections? None, so moved. This one will go to Councilmember Susan Rubio, the consideration of the annexation of the city of Baldwin Park to the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. Councilmember?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of questions. First of all, how big is the report, the engineer's report? Can anybody answer that for me? I mean, is it a big document or is it a few pages? Can you clarify that for me?
Sorry, are we on item 5?
Number 5. And the reason I ask, because, of course, one of the recommendations is that we file the report by infrastructure engineers and the dissemination of information, but I haven't seen it, so I'm just curious if we cannot make it just customary to attach it to our packet so we get to read it and see it in advance.
It should be attached as attachment 1. Is that not included in your packet?
No, it's not. Not with the staff report. And it talks about how council has reviewed and checked, and quite frankly, council has not reviewed because I haven't seen it.
Yes, and I apologize. I'm not sure what happened. This item was held over from a previous meeting where I know it was included. City Clerk Christie, do we have copies available?
Well, I would suggest we...
There's supposed to be an attachment, number 1.
City Manager, I would suggest that we just hold it over again, give the council the right information.
Well, I have a lot of questions in regards to this item, if I may ask them.
Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
So I also have another question, and it goes back to, I thought I heard it in one of the public comments, but anyhow, it talks about the gathering of the data and how we received the postcards and we tallied. Who did that work? Did Christy do that work?
Yes, that was done by the city clerk.
So she was able to receive and organize the information. It also talks about 17,500 letters going out to our residents. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. I think that number might be rounded off. That was taken from the county assessor's records, and that's parcel data. And with that data, you can generate a mailing list.
Well, the reason I ask because I'm a resident and I didn't get any of the information, so I'm wondering who received the information. Is there a way I can get a list of the parcels that got the information?
The list would or should include every parcel in the city. We did have a handful of people complain that they didn't get one, and we weren't sure if it was a problem with the post office or it maybe got delivered to the wrong address or maybe stuck together with their junk mail. But we did have a few complaints on that.
I didn't. Excuse me, I didn't get one either. And we have 4 different properties in Baldwin Park, and I get the notices for all 4, and I didn't get one single letter.
So yeah, I'm wondering if we're missing out on informing some of the residents. That's a concern for me because sometimes we go ahead with something like this, and then later on we have residents come back and tell us that they never heard about it, we didn't inform them, and so that's a really big concern of mine because it says 17,000 letters went out, but even then, we only received 575 back, and to me, the percentage is so low that I'm wondering if half of those letters didn't get lost. I'm just concerned about the percentage that we got back. It says 347 yeses and 128 no's, And that's, again, out of 17,500. How accurate is this number if I didn't get one? Cruz Baca didn't get 4 of her properties. And this is, again, one of the fights that I don't want to take on with the residents later on when they find out this happened and we didn't inform them. So I'm just a little bit concerned. But who sent out the 17,500? Did they come out, you're saying, from the county?
Infrastructure engineers prepared and sent that out.
Okay, can we get a list of the, I guess, of the residents that got it? Because I really need to look into that.
We can get
Because
them.
I know that there's a charge associated to those 17,500 letters, and if I didn't get it, I'm just concerned about, again, missing out on some residents. The next question I have, so Christy compiled the information, correct?
Correct.
It also discusses that we had 3 meetings to inform the residents and have a Q&A session, if I'm not mistaken. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay, so I see here we had one on Tuesday, May 10th, Thursday, May 12th, and Saturday, May 14th. Okay, once again, how did this information get sent out?
The advertisements were included in the notice, the 17,500 notices that went out, and then in addition to that, we used all of the resources that we have, including our website, the marquee. I'm not sure, I don't recall if we had time to put that in the now, but did it go in the now?
I don't recall offhand, although we did initiate a press release.
I believe it did. I think we timed it with that, but I would have to verify that.
Okay, Manny, this is my question to you. Because I know one of the informational meetings was held at the senior center, correct?
Yes.
And that was a Friday where the seniors are already there, correct?
Yes. I'm not sure. I believe it was on a Thursday.
But it was part of what we do in the everyday course of business.
Yes.
Correct? And so you were there to answer their questions and
yes,
any concerns that they might have?
We actually held a special event. We provided breakfast, and we had an interpreter and
company.
Yes, we had a very nice event, and it was well attended. We probably had 105 people.
And your staff was there as well?
Yes.
Okay, I also see here that...
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Who supplied the lunch?
Actually, it wasn't so much a lunch, it was more finger food, and the city provided those items, and it led into a free lunch through our provider at the senior center at 12 o'clock. So we were on a tight timeline. We needed to finish the informational meeting by 12 o'clock, and I believe it started that day at 10:30, and we were done about 11:50.
But according to this, it says that infrastructure did, so why wouldn't infrastructure pay for the luncheon or the finger foods instead of the city?
I'd have to double check on that, but I'm pretty sure that we purchased it, and if we need to initiate a reimbursement process, then we will go ahead and do that. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, and I have another question. So according to the staff report, that states that the meeting consisted of a 10-minute screening of an informational video provided by the district, the vector control, correct?
Yes.
And that was the source of information that was given out to the residents, correct?
That was one element of the information.
Okay, the reason I have a little bit of concern with what this entire process is that, you know, I see in the report that the city clerk was responsible for the report and providing the count of the postcards. She was responsible for tallying the information. I see that you were responsible for putting together those 3 informational meetings, which were our staffs were there, set it up, provided the food. And then I see that we paid nearly $16,000 to infrastructure engineers for this process. And from what I'm understanding, we took care of everything. So how can we justify the $16,000?
Yeah, I'd have to refer that to our city manager. I wasn't involved in the agreement.
Okay, Shannon, can you explain that to me?
Yes, infrastructure engineers did a lot of the preliminary work, developed the letters and the notices, worked directly with the vector control on the information, worked directly with staff to set up the meetings. I don't believe it was in their contract to provide food at the meetings, and I think that was just something that they did at the senior center for the seniors that were there.
Okay, so only because I remember back several years back, and then you remember this, like we used to have charrettes all over town trying to gather information, and we used to have them for various reasons, whether it was the joint use project, we wanted to inform people, and it was always our staff doing it from A through Z, and I think we're very capable of doing it ourselves, so I'm just wondering why we're paying $16,000 for something. From what I'm reading in the report, city clerk took care of the postcards, you guys took care of the meetings. I just want to know if it's absolutely necessary to pay a third party to do something that we've been doing in-house for many years. I just need someone to answer that question for me.
Also, I have one more question, and I hate to keep asking about the food, but was the finger food available to every... I didn't attend that particular meeting at the senior center, so I'm just curious, was the finger food supplied for whoever else from the outside, or was it just for the seniors?
No, it was actually for everyone. And the time of the day, we created, most of the folks that attended were seniors because of the time of the day. The younger population, non-seniors, were probably working. So we drew a pretty good crowd from the seniors, and we had finger food in the sense of crackers and carrots and those type of elements of food.
Okay, my next question to you, Manny, and this is for you directly. Do you think that you can handle these meetings in the future yourself? Because I know that we used to do them all the time, and it was team effort, and it was in-house. Is it something that you can do yourself?
Well, the public input meeting staff is very comfortable. The other elements that the engineering firm took care of, I'm not familiar with. But in terms of the public input meetings, staff is very comfortable with those elements.
Okay, because I think that I would suggest the next time we do it in-house, I know that it just minimizes the cost, and we're paying, I think, if I'm not mistaken, $120 an hour for something that I think we can do in-house with staff that we already have. So I would ask that we consider doing it ourselves instead of paying a third party next time.
Okay, Mayor.
All right, yes, Councilman.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 5 as staff recommends.
All right, is there a second? Second, any objections? See none, so move.
I will object to this one.
Okay,
I have just too many unanswered questions right now, and I'm not clear on what the answer is. I haven't quite gotten it.
Hold on. So at this point, I call for the objection. You guys, okay, let me do it again then. At this point, it was a motion by Councilman Ricardo Pacheco, second by Vice Mayor Monica Garcia. Then I asked for any objections, no answer. So at this point, is there objections?
Yes.
Okay. So at this one, we're going to have our City Treasurer, the Honorable and Distinguished Maria Contreras, is going to lead us in a roll call. And this is for the consideration of the annexation of the City Ball Park to the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. Alrighty.
Councilmember Susan Rubio?
No.
Councilmember Chris Baca?
No.
Mayor Potem Monica Garcia?
Yes.
Councilmember Ricardo Pacheco?
Yes.
Mayor Manuel Lozano?
Absolutely, yes. Let me just say how important it is for us to pass this. There's 23 communities throughout the San Gabriel Valley that have it. The only last ones that did not have this was the city of South Pasadena. It passed overwhelmingly, and in the city of Baldwin Park. Now, we're not going to wait for someone to get stung by a Zika virus. And for many years, this was never. It was brought up probably about 4 times since I've been here. It was not passed because of the actual taxes. Now it's $11, and I believe somewhere 36 or 86 cents. So it'd be 90 cents per month. It's an important step for us, even though this should have been passed years ago, but it was not. So now's the time for us to address this particular issue. We need to be a part of Vector, so we have urgency to deal with these particular types of mosquitoes. They're going to be available, because currently, right now, if someone calls for any type of mosquito abatement, they're not going to service us because we don't have them here. This is a process. It still has to go through LAPCO in order for it to be approved, which is the Local Agency Formation Commission of County, and they also have public communication there if anyone wishes to go. So it's not a done deal until such time that it reaches that particular area of the county and then comes back to the city once again. So I want to let everyone know. So at this point, last year, some of you that may live in Ballpark, we had a pretty challenging time with mosquitoes out there. At least I know even up to October. So this is going to place the city on the map and join the rest of the cities. All 23 will become 24, South Pasadena 25. That it will be part of the mosquito abatement with Vector.
Mayor?
Yes, Vice Mayor Monica Garcia.
Thank you. I also support this because we brought this to our staff and we brought it with urgency. And so I want to thank staff for facilitating this process. I would like to get a report on some of the holes in the process, but overall the fact that this was facilitated and that you responded so quickly, I want to thank you for moving on it. During the election of last year, I got to speak with a lot of residents, and this seemed to be the top priority. This was the top conversation that I was having with residents because they were so concerned about the mosquitoes, and especially with different viruses that have been reported. So I think this is a public health issue, and absolutely I support this. Thank you.
Mayor? Yes. I just want to say that, I've been getting a lot of calls by a lot of people about the mosquitoes when they get out there, and there's a lot of public concern. This is a health hazard for our community that needs to be resolved. A lot of people are concerned about it. We've spent a long time discussing this. Both council members, all of our council members, I received the notices. I know some of you received it, but you were aware of the fact that this was going to come about. And so I also think it's important to note that staff put a lot of time and effort in talking to a lot of groups out in the community. So I think it was well advertised for a long time. Councilwoman Baca last meeting, I believe, wanted some information about grants possibly for this item, and staff went out and found out there were no grants of the type you were describing. So I think we've already discussed it enough. The community's aware of it, and I think just because of health hazards that are out there in our community in regards to mosquito and the Zika virus, I think we need to move forward with this. So that's why I voted for it.
Mayor, can I be just clear on my objection to this? Clearly all of us have been pushing for a long, long time because it has been a concern for many, many years. Of course, we want to make sure that the safety of the community comes first. But nonetheless, that money that we spent, I really would like to see it itemized, and I wanted to see, what those expenses were. So I'm not opposing going into the vector control. It's a 9-month process, and it takes a little time to get going. And I have advocated for education prior to us actually succeeding and being part of the vector control, sending out information, educating our community, because we already know water is the number one cause, and our residents are still leaving out water because of the drought. We encourage them to collect and recycle, but yet it causes the mosquitoes to come. So I'm not opposing the item. Of course, we're all on board keeping our community safe, but I really would like answers as to the money spent on this item. But, we'll pass it, and I hope that I do get that information at a later time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Yes, Councilor Cruz.
I just had a problem with this, is that when Mr. Tanaka from the Vector Control came to make the presentation, one of my questions, I believe his name is Tanaka, right?
I don't think so. What is it? I should. The gentleman from Vector, Fujimaru, is it Fuji?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I apologize for that. I don't know where I got Tanaka.
I think Tanaka's going to prison. But go ahead.
No.
The one you're talking
I
about.
didn't mean that.
Okay, all right.
But when he made the presentation, I had asked specific questions about if we picked up the phone and got eaten alive as you're walking out your back door like I have. Mm-hmm. Can I pick up the phone and tell them, could you please come and spray my backyard? And he had said no, that he could tell us what to do, but it's basically just educating us on what to do. That was my concern. How many of our seniors can actually do the abatement on their own? I wasn't concerned so much about myself because I can go to Home Depot, but I thought that our seniors and some of the people that live alone and so forth, that was a concern to me, that there wasn't enough information for them to be able to take care of this problem.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up because that was a question that I attended the finger-licking food thing over at the senior center, and it was discussed about that. In other words, their vector control is not, when you call, they're not going to come out and spray your actual yard. They're basically taking this particular, they're able to capture it, go back, study to find out if it tests positive for Zika virus or whatever potential virus may be out there. Am I correct on that, gentleman back there? Okay, so.
But it still doesn't abate the mosquito.
Right. Exactly. So which is let me bring him up here.
It's So this
it's
is a
basically
public
monitoring.
Yeah,
it's monitoring,
okay.
and there's a I mean, there's even though I tell myself, okay, so then what's the purpose, right? But there is a purpose behind. Could you be like maybe less than 2 minutes brief on that? You could talk to us.
There are two components to mosquito control. What you mentioned, disease surveillance, where we test the mosquitoes to see they're carrying diseases. The other component is inspection and control, and we will come out and we will inspect your property. We look for sources of water. It's not effective to just spray and kill the adult mosquitoes that are biting. It's more effective to look for the sources of water and have you remove them and keep them removed. If there is a problem, yes, we will apply adulticides to kill them, but there is also the other component where the resident has to do their part and keep water off their property. That's the service that we provide. Is that clear?
But it's clear, but I think what some of the residents were looking for is someone going to come out and either spray or help me with that. See, the information is great, but a lot of them can't get to, like I said, to Home Depot or somewhere to buy the decon or whatever, like I spray my backyard. So a lot of them can't do that. That's a concern of mine. It's not so much the money. It's how can we get help for our community to be able to abate the mosquito.
Spraying mosquitoes is not the solution. Removing the sources of water on a community basis is the solution. And you cannot do mosquito control by spraying individual properties. It's a community effort, and that's our goal. Preventing disease and getting the community buy-in to maintain their properties so that they don't produce mosquitoes.
All right.
Okay, just to be clear to what I said earlier, correct? The source of those mosquitoes is the water that we are retaining in certain either backyards, buckets, and that's what we need to tackle, correct? And that's what I mean. It's something that I think we've been pushing, or at least I remember pushing to myself. I'll speak for myself, is that we need education in the community because we could become part of the vector control, and which is important. However, it's not reaching the community. They need to know that we need to get rid of the water. I mean, I did this whole educational thing a while back, and it's the water. And like I said, right now we have a double-edged sword because everyone's promoting the recycle, and everyone's doing as we ask. But on the other end, that's what's causing the mosquitoes to come to our community. But thank you for your time. We really appreciate you answering those questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So at this point, we're going to go into item number 7, which is these. Am I correct?
Number 6.
6. Okay, one moment. All right. So item number 6 is the approval of corrections to resolution records by Councilmember Susan Rubio.
This is just for clarification purposes, and I guess this is for the city clerk, Christie. This is just a correction on the number, nothing else, correct? So that the same report was taken, recopied, and submitted.
What happened was
Your mic? Oh, okay.
This particular assessment district, it's a 3-phase process, and it's a resolution for each one. At the second point, the first resolutions received numbers. The second time they came forward, they were mistakenly duplicated from the first set. So I'm assigning proper numbers to this set, and then before you tonight is the actual third set of resolutions, which are correctly numbered.
Okay, so it didn't have to go through any other hands for update, correction, and inspection, correct? Okay.
Strictly numbers, and that's
Okay, Mayor, I'll make a motion to pass this item.
All right, thank you very much. Item 6, there's a motion second. Any objections? Seeing none, so move. At this point, we'll go over to item number 7, which is the certification of Community Housing Development Organization and approval of the Affordable Housing Agreement. Oh, the Honorable, the Distinguished. Look who's coming down the aisle.
Susie
Morales. All right, you go, girl.
Thank you for that. Did you have some questions, or do you want me to just give you some
I would like for you just to clarify what Rio Hondo, how will they acquire the property, and are they paying for it? What will it be used for? Because what I understand, Rio Hondo deals with Section 8 and affordable housing, unless I'm completely wrong. But from what I understand, so I just wanted you to explain to us how they're going to acquire this property.
Okay.
And is it market value? That's what I need.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Rio Hondo is going to be, the city actually is what we're hoping for, will provide funding to Rio Hondo home funds in the maximum amount that were allowed for a 3-bedroom, which I believe is a little bit over $250,000. The property, the last appraisal was at 410. There will be a lien on the property for the difference. So it will be sold at the appraised value. So there will be 2 liens, one with the home funds for the loan that we provide, and the other for the housing set-aside funds, which is the Breezy property funding source. It's like a paper lien, and it holds the equity. And so, it's sold at the market, whatever the appraised value is, with the gap between the actual funding and the equity. Rio Hondo, they're here. They can provide they can give you some information as to what they do. But they do affordable housing for. They have multifamily. They have single-family units. They are a HUD certified CHOTO. And what they're going to do is they're going to maintain this property for 55 years as required by HCD. As a rental unit. They will be the owner and operator. We no longer have any ties. We sold it to them. The only thing we have to do is our monitoring to ensure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
So how is the money exchanged for the 410 that you said is the market value?
Okay, we will provide them the 250 of home funds as a city. Rio Hondo will then come before the Housing Successor Agency Board and ask for the purchase for the property from the Housing Successor Agency Board. The home funds will then be the finance given to the Housing Successor Agency Board for the property to be used for whatever other affordable housing project they can use. And then the lien is an equity, which there's no funds. Actually, it's just like a paper lien on the property, holding the equity for 55 years.
So the city will hold the lien.
The Housing Successor Agency will.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes. I know it gets a little bit confusing because it's both entities.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And
Anyone
I
else?
make a motion that we pass.
All right, thank you. There's a motion. I'll second. Any objections? Seeing none, so move. At this point, item 8, acceptance of improvements and authorize the filing of a notice of completion for citywide parkway planning project. And this is Councilmember Susan Rubio.
Thank you, Mayor.
That's awesome.
I wish Danny Oaxaca was here. Is he here? Well, anyhow, I personally wanted to thank him because he runs such a great organization. You know, the San Gabriel Conservation Corp focuses on kids that stray a little bit from high school and don't end up in college, but it's an alternative, and he really mentors these kids in a really nice way. Anyhow, just wanted to thank him for that program and planting 500 trees. I know all of us have been very supportive of going greener and putting more trees, so they completed a 500 tree planting in our community. So I just want to thank him and his students because they've worked hard, and this started back in 2014 till now. So anyhow, just wanted to thank them. And I know Dan Wall is not here. However, now you're here, and I was encouraging him to seek more funds because we can definitely use more trees, more than 500. So if you can reach out to the supervisor's office, I think that's where we got the grant from initially, and I know there's more out there, so just please keep an eye out.
As a matter of fact, at the next council meeting, we'll be bringing a resolution to apply for this grant again, and we're going after $200,000 to plant trees along the medians.
See, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you so much. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you
so
very
with
much.
that, I will make a motion to pass this.
All right. The second by Councilmember Cruz Baca. Any objections? See none, so move. This one, item number 9, which is Susan Rubio, the approval of the administrative policy number AP 16-031, entitled Baldwin Park Social Media Policy. Councilmember Susan Rubio.
Thank you, Mayor. I read this thoroughly, and it's really good, and I know it's customary, but, I always worry about politicians, and that includes myself. And I know that we've done a really great job with the NOW, and one of the things that we have is that we have a policy where the electeds cannot be in pictures and come out in these, in our local newspaper, because then they take advantage. And like I said, I'm including myself. It could be a potential for people taking advantage, promoting themselves politically. And so I love everything about it. And there is a policy there about supporting or opposing, and that's fine. However, can we include possibly in there somewhere that on an election year, possibly we could maybe put a freeze for 2 months prior to the election, so there's no potential for, again, promotion, and I think that protects all of us equally and for future generations to come. Is that something that you guys would be inclined to support?
Promotion of what?
Item number 9, Mayor.
Okay.
The policy for social media.
Oh, okay, social media.
She wants to add some language to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of protections already in place in terms of profanity, obscene language, and we can take anything down. But like I said, one of my concerns was that we don't want self-promotion of anybody running for public office, and it protects all of us. And again, it'll be here for many years to come, so I'd rather have it
That's fine.
not excluded like the now. That's very extreme, but perhaps 2 months prior, only in the event of advertising normal events like we do. You know, we have our names on the flyers at the bottom. I mean, that's okay, but I'm talking about appearing in image and name only, excluding now 2 months prior to an election.
Councilwoman?
Yes.
That would require all of us being on a picture at the same time, because I've seen other cities do it, but the way they do it is instead of just one person, it has to be everybody. So you'd have to have a picture wherever it is with all of us in it, wherever it makes sense to put it in.
It's only 2 months out of the year, every 2 years, so I think it's safer that way, because then we get into situations. Yeah, well, then we get into situations where not everyone attends an event, and then they're excluded from the picture, and why do we want to have the back and forth? I feel it's safer just to have 2 months, and nobody has to deal with it.
Or you could just put all our pictures on there, and just kind of the way we do it on the website. Just always have our pictures of all 5 of us.
Well, Mayor, I'll make a motion, and hopefully you guys will support it, that during an election year, to avoid self-promotion, 2 months prior to an election, again, it's every 2 years, that we just exclude ourselves by name and image unless in the course of normal advertisement. For example, we're always in every flyer, not to take our names away, that's already part of the flyer, or if the flyer actually involves our picture already, just to promote flyers, but not necessarily events where, cutting, you know what I mean. It gets into that tricky area where people may self-promote. So again, not for us. We're not going to be here forever, but this is something we're going to set for future generations. So I'd rather just, hopefully ask for your support. Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, just so I'm clear, how would you then, if it's not all 5 of us, I mean, you're proposing it could be us as individuals, or how are you? What is your
No, you have it backwards. Not us as individuals, excluding us completely 2 months prior to the election.
Okay, 2 months.
So, yes. So, and again, we always send out flyers, and that's okay. We always have our names in the bottom, and that's okay to do. But what if we go to ribbon cuttings, and then there's pictures of us? That's what I mean. It's just, we do that with the now. Right now, we're not allowed to be there in picture or name. That's just the way the policy reads, correct? And so this is like social media, Facebook, Twitter, and all these other venues. And so I'm just thinking, just to protect ourselves, every 2 months prior to election, nobody has to deal with the in-house fighting about self-promotion. I just feel it protects all of us.
Can we
I'll make that motion.
Can we try for 6 months and see how it looks?
I've got to interject with something, and this was before I was a council member. I remember that there was some event that was going on about make beautiful Baldwin Park, or something about the cleanup. And I remember that on every bus bench stop, every shelter had a gigantic poster of the people, the candidates that were running, basically because they were elected officials.
I've never
That
had
was on every bus thing.
The council members?
Yes.
I would have one at home. I'll tell you, I've never seen
Well,
that.
it is. Waste management put them on all the bus shelters.
Waste
All the bus
management,
shelters.
totally separate.
So you see, that's social media. If it comes to some of our vendors.
Well, that's why I would say don't have anything. I mean, you're better off not promoting.
No, but this is so simple. Like I said, this is
Look,
just a
if you leave it as
safeguard.
is, the way it is right now, it's been like that. I mean,
No, you're wrong. We're just putting this policy in place today. It hasn't been around. This is new.
but I mean, right now in the now, we don't put ourselves a picture. Nowhere in the now will you find us.
Correct. And this is the newspaper. We're talking about all the social media events. But, only because, when we do promote, again, we were not allowed to have our picture or likeness, correct? Right. This is, you never know, you might want to promote advertisement of, I'm thinking of the grocery store, you know what I mean? Congratulations to the outlet, and we're cutting a ribbon. I think that's nice for the community to see the new businesses coming in town, but that's promoting the business, not ourselves. That's kind of different. I'm just saying 2 months before the election, and that's every 2 years.
It's like
Guys,
adding.
it's never been on there, and I don't care.
Well,
I mean,
no, it's never
it
been
is.
on there because
okay, so you're just
social
setting
media.
a policy. So
Yeah.
when you're saying social media, you're talking about it being here on the actual city website. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what the report says,
That's what the
item
report
number 9.
For the city. And social media now has become so huge. You got Twitter, you
Right.
got that. You didn't have that not even 10 years ago.
You're so true. I don't care. That's fine. We don't, I mean, which one are we on other than the city website? So are we saying to remove the pictures from the website during that campaign as well?
No, you're confused, Mayor. This is a total new item. The Parks and Recs is suggesting that we come to the next century and that we get on Twitter, Facebook, and every social media outlet there is. But we haven't done it ever before, so we need a policy in place to make sure that it's not overused or violated. So one of the policies, there's like 20 policies they submitted, but I would just wanted to add that to some of the safeguards that they included in the list of like 20-something policies.
So then would that mean that, I'm gonna give an example, there's a grand opening for a business and only, I show up, and the next 20 events I show up, so then I would have my picture on each of these?
If you're responsible, yeah, if you want to show up to a grand opening, you should. Why not? But again, it promotes our community, it promotes our businesses, but there's no harm if no one's running for election. You see the difference?
Well, I mean,
You guys would have to read the report to understand what I'm saying, because it's a big report.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think what I'm hearing too from the mayor is that I don't think it's really ever been an issue because we take, we do take we go the lengths to make sure that our pictures, our names are not in the newsletter. Now, to the point that Councilmember Ricardo Pacheco is making. I mean, I've missed, events, and I think what you're saying is if I don't go to an event, but the remaining 4 of you are in a picture, that can't be announced, like on a Twitter. And I don't know if, I don't know.
It could be announced, not during election cycle, just election cycle.
I mean, is that fair? Like if I don't show up to an event and the 4 of you do, and it's good publicity for a business or good publicity for a community event or project.
Well, I look at all the other websites of other communities, and they do. I mean, they advertise ground breakings, ribbon cuttings, and that kind of stuff, and I think that's fair.
Bring this back. Let's look at
think about it a little bit.
Copina. I mean, they're all over the place. Let's bring those back. Let's do a little study session on them. I don't care because our picture's never been in the now.
I know. I don't care either.
But this is a new policy for a new thing. It's not the old one.
21st century. That's fine.
Okay. So you want to bring it back, and I think that's a good idea. So our legal counsel can review it.
Let me Twitter it on my Twitter here.
Please do.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and, thank you, Councilmember Susan Rubio. So at this point, we're going to request it to come back. Do you want to make that motion, Councilmember?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to bring it back.
Okay, second.
Second, any objections seen? So not. All right, so interesting. That's fine. We'll bring it back, just have more other cities see what they do. All right, thank you very much for that. All right, at this point, we'll go to item number 9, which is the approval of administrative, we did that, right? 10. Award a bid, city project number 2016-0150, street reconstruction project at Kenmore Avenue, Ohio Street, and alleyway. So that's you guys over there. Finally, we got there.
No, is it a report? No, I don't think it's a report.
No, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and make, it's not a report.
No, it's number 10.
We make a motion?
Sorry.
No, I pulled it to review.
Okay, go ahead.
I think this is for Sam. Sam, I just have a little bit of a concern because this is the bid that came out the lowest, correct, $495. First of all, if we can make it, like I said, standard that you provide the bio of every company that we newly hired, because at least we can see, their history, the number of years in business, and all the other information that we need to make good decisions. My concern is this only because I'm very familiar with Sully Miller Company, which came out a little higher, and we used to use them many, many years ago. But I also remember, there's a difference in price because I remember that other company used to provide like longer warranties, and then they used to use specific material for streets that was like a laminate, so it would last longer, and if something happened to the street, they would come back and repave it. And so my concern is, this is a big difference. Most companies are within the range of $600,000, and this one comes out at $494, and it's a big drop. So I'm wondering if we're losing quality here with that kind of money. What is the difference? If you can educate me a little bit on the difference.
Sure. I agree. When we opened the bids, I agree that it was low. So we scheduled a meeting with the contractor and gave him an opportunity to revisit the bid and see if he wanted to stick with it. And he did. So we checked his references. They were all very good. But along the study, we discovered that his license was about a year and a half old, and he's got a bond cap of $500,000. So I suspect that he bid just right under his bond limit so he can get the job because he's trying to make maybe a name out for himself, or he's just starting out. But again, I have to emphasize that we did call a lot of people that he's worked for within the past year, and they all rated him very high. So we decided, gave him some time to think about it. We gave him a few weeks, and he came back and said that he wanted to do the job.
See, and I don't know the company at all. This is the first time I've heard about them, and I hear what you're saying, and I think it's always important to give people, a new start. It's hard to get a job if no one will hire you, correct? But for me, this is really serious for me. If we're doing, street repair, the quality has to be comparable to what we're used to. And like I said, I kind of would like to take it a step back and wait to the next council meeting because I want to look at the other companies we used to use. Like I said, I remember at one point protesting about Tully Miller, but it turns out they had longer warranties and the material they used was different, and they would come back if there was any damage and do it free of charge. And so these are these little perks that we have to look out for. Is it going to last 5 years or 30, 40 years? So that's a really big concern for me. Can we just pull it to the next meeting so I can sit down with them and they can educate me on how they do the process?
Yeah, if I may
Yes,
add,
Councilman Ricardo
you're talking about item 10 to Gentry General
Yes.
Engineering? Okay, this is driven not by, by law and how they do the bidding. You go by the lowest bidder. We could start to get into legal issues if we don't stick to the fact that they're a qualified responsible bidder, and then you bring in a lot of other issues if it doesn't fall within those criteria that we have. That's basically what it's based on, but it's not necessarily that we choose one over the other. I think they were the lowest responsible bidder. Is that, and everything checked out, their insurances, everything?
That is correct.
And that's the one you got to go with.
Okay, well, I have to disagree with you. A while back, Councilmember Cruzbach and I were in a committee for the audit committee, correct? And we had a lot of bids, and some of them were lower, but then we took a comparison item per item, and it turns out as much as it was a lower bid that came in, the product was not, the quality of the lowest bidder. So, and we bypassed the lowest bidder because of that, and we were able to justify it because of, again, the work product. Yeah, I'm not saying we're not going with them. I want you to hear me. What I'm saying is, can we pull it? So I would love to sit down with them just so I can be sure that I personally would like to compare it because, again, I'm looking at $100,000. That's significant for any company. And I know that they want to come under their bid, but are we going to sacrifice quality because we want to meet their need of $500,000? So I personally would like the courtesy of meeting with them. I'm not saying I'm not going with them. I'm not saying I want you not to go with them. I just want to explore that area. Like I said, if we're going to put streets, they have to last. We can't have them.
Hold on. Let me just say something. Go ahead. If you're talking about you and Cruz went through the audit committee and selected a firm, and you guys made changes, is that what you're saying?
No, please, let's leave that up. No.
I'm not. Because you're comparing professional services versus a construction contract. They're two different ways. A professional services, you have a lot of leeway. It's not necessarily lowest bid. There's a lot of professional qualifications. Like when you pick a law firm, you don't go by the lowest hourly rate. You go by the firm's qualifications and so forth. If you do that on this particular construction contract, which is driven by state law, then you're going to possibly open us up to a lawsuit from the ones that got the next highest bid, and that's the trend that's where you're trending. And
let me just say something.
But I'm not saying. I hope everyone's hearing me say I'm not going with them. I just want to sit down with them. I'm not saying that I'm going to break the law. That's not what I'm here to do.
Let me just say,
Sam, can you respond? That can we wait and can we meet with them?
Hold on.
Is that okay? That's not against the law, correct?
No, hold on. Let's just a reminder that the city of Ballpark is a common law city. We're not a charter city. Now, Pasadena, Irwindale, they're charter cities, meaning that what Councilmember Susan Rubio is requesting right now, they don't have to go by the lowest bidder. They could go whichever one of those bidders, just so that we know. So common law that we are part of requires that we go with the lowest bidder. Irwindale and Pasadena, those other cities, I think Pomona as well, are chartered cities. So it allows them the leeway to go whomever they want to go. They don't have to go with the lowest bidder.
But
just
Mayor,
so that we at least
could
know.
I please say something?
Yes,
and this
go
is
ahead.
what concerns me. I'm more familiar with Sully Miller because of my family's construction business. But this is my concern, and forget about everybody. Yes, they are the lowest bidder. However, when you tear up these streets, and I saw Sully Miller, what they did, not only with mine, but on Stewart and all the other streets, it was like they came in, they tore everything up in one day. They put everything back. Within a week, you had your street. You were never inconvenienced about leaving your driveway. I never once did I say, I'm blocked in here and I need to get out. The work that they did was impeccable. Is Gentry going to do, or are we going to, you yourself, are we going to be getting phone calls from screaming people saying that their cars were damaged because of the tar or whatever you call that stuff? Or was it because they've had dirt on in front of their, or whatever that stuff is, for like a week and they don't know when their street's going to be paved and they keep bumping out of their driveway? That's what I'm concerned about. What is the frequency, or how quickly can they get each one of these streets finished so that we don't get calls? I think I saw Ohio, which is the street that Margarita Vargas lives on. Is she going to be inconvenienced because this company's not going to finish their job when they're supposed? Oops, I'm sorry, but we couldn't meet the deadline?
Mayor,
we don't know their track record.
Let me explain that. In construction, when they bid it on there was construction drawings, there are specifications. They're going to build that street to a standard. We have an outside inspection company that's going to come and make sure that they do it to that. All the materials, when they're going to buy whatever it is, the asphalt or the base, whatever they're going to put in, they're going to submit a plan to the city, and the city's got to approve it. So, the schedule and everything that they do, there's a reason why they get it approved by the city before they continue. So that's already driven. That's already in the specifications and how they bid and how they're going to go forward. The schedule that they're going to do, the time limits, all that is done. And so everybody already, submitted their bids, and they're the lowest responsible bidder. That's how the state is going to look at it. What you're doing is you're allowing, because you just said a bias that Sally Miller is you knew them. And so the other bidders are going to say, hey, well, or him himself, this person will come back and sue us because
No, I won't vote.
No, hold on, I'm not done.
I won't vote.
I know, but you're creating a bias that's why they do construction bids the way they do, because there's criteria that they have to meet. There's a standard that they're going to do already, and we're going to make sure that the city has inspectors out there that are going to make sure that they build it to the standard. I mean, this is all state law driven. It doesn't have to do with us. It's construction law, it's under a code, and that's how we follow it. And I'm just saying, this company, because you decided to exclude them and lowest bidder, they're going to come back and sue us and say, you went for that other bidder, and they'll make up other reasons. So I think you're driving us into a position that wouldn't be correct, and that's why
No, I think nobody.
always
Vice
supported.
Mayor Monica, I got to see it, please.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, were you finished?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what the mayor and Councilmember Pacheco have stated. So when we're dealing with professional services, we have the discretion to select who we want to contract with based on, their budget or on quantitative data. But when it comes to capital improvement projects, there are rules, and our staff has followed those rules. As stated by Councilmember Ricardo Pacheco, this is set by the state. If we don't move forward with those rules, unless there's some very, some red flag which you would have already caught before making the recommendation to us, and going through the process, then we are opening ourselves up to a lawsuit. Now, second, I think it's a bad precedent because we've hired staff and we've said, Sam, you are in charge of this process, and he's vetted. He's gone through, along with Dan Wall, I'm sure. You've gone through the process. You follow the rules. These are rules that have been laid out by government law. And so by us saying, we want to meet with this person, I think it undermines, what you've done, your work, and our faith in you. And why we've hired you to fulfill that position. So I think it sets a bad precedent, but aside from opening up to legal, challenges. So with that, let me just move to approve this item.
I have one more comment before
Here, hold on. There's a motion on the floor.
I have one more comment.
Motion on the floor. Second it. So this question. Go ahead.
I have a question, and it's a question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, Sam.
No, that's fine.
Has there ever been a time when there has been an exception where even though it is the lowest bidder and you are following the rules, you find out that that particular company has either lawsuits, liens, or whatever it is, and you have to say, I'm really sorry, but we can't go with you, or whoever tells them, whether it's yourself or whomever, in your experience, has that ever occurred where the lowest bidder had problems and you had to change companies?
Personally, I've been doing this for 16 years, and I have not run into that problem. When we receive a bid, there's a process. We have to check their license. We have to check their insurance and all that stuff, and vet them out. I have had experience where during a project, a low bidder is not performing, and there's rules to address that as well.
Okay.
But I want to add that I share those concerns. I understand Councilman Rubio and Councilman Cruz Baca.
Thank you.
That there are concerns with the spread of the bid, but that is a concern that's these kind of concerns for performing. It applies to all low bidders. But we have a process where we have inspection, we inspect the plant, we have specified the materials, we make sure and verify that all the materials that we spec'd out are being supplied and constructed the way we designed the plant. This is phase 3 of the paving projects. Phase 1, Sully Miller was a contractor. Phase 2 was Gentry Brothers, which is not to be confused with Gentry General Engineering. And we've applied the same rules to all of them. So we expect this contractor to perform and follow the specifications as we wrote them, and we are going to be there to make sure that this happens.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and for the record, because I know you guys are setting up like lawsuits and using that kind of language, I never said I wanted to use Sully Miller. The only reason is that they did the previous job, and I was familiar with like the warranties and their work. That's the only reason I mentioned them as a comparison. But you've been in this business for 16 years, and I heard you say the same thing I just said. You said you had concerns when you saw that as well, correct?
We did have concerns. We did meet with him. We gave him the opportunity to say whether he was still going to, want to do the job or not.
And you explained that very well, and that's why I appreciate it. But you had concerns, and you've been in business for 16 years, correct? I just wanted the opportunity to meet with them, and so I wasn't saying we weren't going to use them. I just wanted to extend it to the next council meeting to meet with them and just talk to them and have the courtesy of having some clarification, not necessarily with them, but sit down with you. But it's okay. We'll move forward with it.
After meeting with them, I feel that I'm very comfortable with moving forward with the project, and they are going to be held to our standards.
And for the record, I do know who Sully Miller is, but I don't break bread with him or party on the weekends. So I need to clarify that so that no one thinks that I'm getting some type of a contract for them or whatever, because I know their work. I've seen them a lot, not only here in Baldwin Park, but other cities as well. And that's how I know who Sully Miller is. But Councilmember Pacheco said that there was going to be an outside inspection. Who will be doing the outside inspection?
Whoever the inspector is for the city.
We're going to be internally. We're going to be doing the inspection for the work. We are going to hire an outside inspection firm to perform the testing of the materials, because this is unlike what we did in the last two projects. This is a reconstruction project, so we're going deeper and rebuilding the street. So the structural section of the street is going to be rebuilt, and we need a soils company to come in and test to make sure that the contractor is meeting compaction.
And I saw in the warrants and demands that we already paid a Gentry Brothers for something. Is that the same company?
No, that's a different company. They are related. I think it's a son or a brother that broke off from Gentry Brothers.
Thank you.
All right.
And thanks
Thank you very much. So at this point, there's a motion, and also second by Councilman Ricardo Pacheco. Were there any objections? See no objections. At this point, we move. It's been approved. All right. So we'll go down to the public hearings now. The first one that we have, which is item 11, conduct a public hearing, and following the public hearing, adopt resolution number 2016-136, approving the engineer's report for the citywide park maintenance and assessment district for fiscal year 2016
2017, declaring the intent to levy and collect assessments. So who is handling this?
That would be me.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Mr. San Gutierrez.
Okay, so what you have before you is our annual assessment for park maintenance.
Right.
We are proposing an increase of half of 1% or 0.51%, which roughly translates to about 58 cents per residential lot per year. The increase is in accordance with the Consumer Price Index, and that's what we're asking for. Currently, this fund is negative every year and is supplemented by the general fund.
And how much did you say it would be per resident?
58 cents.
58 cents
per
per year?
residential lot per year.
Per year, okay, 58 cents. All right. So at this point, allow me to open up the public hearing. So I will ask anyone that wishes to speak against the actual initiative that's being proposed. This is the time that you come up. Thank you. So this is opposing.
Hello, City Council, Baldwin Park residents. The way I see it, this is taxation without representation. You people are going to find a way, and the mayor knows, he's looking right at me. He knows this is the way you people find a way to raise everything and get money to pay for your mistakes. Now, I'm not going to live long enough to take care of all of this, but let me tell you, you people are getting this city into debt like every other city in the world. You don't care because it's not totally your money. It's a little bit of all of our money. This is our money. You people that are sitting up here, you represent this city for doing a poor job. All of you, including the person that does the taxes for you. The chief of police is trying his best. The person that did the best for all of us, Mr. Walls, you guys let him go. Senora Baca, Senora Rubio, and you other three, I don't know what to tell you. But you, lawyer, Jiminy Crickets, how can you allow this city to fall into super debt? You know that's what they're doing. Number 11, that's what they're doing. It's taxation. They're going to tax us the short way. We're going to raise this. We're going to tell you, we need more money. We're going to do this. I'll guarantee you that's all it's for. You guys find the loopholes, and you have the lawyer find the loopholes for you. The CEO, he should be working for all of us. He's working for you guys. He ain't working for us. I'm paying him, and me and everybody else, but you people don't work for us anymore. Mr. Pacheco, the mayor, and the CEO, and Garcia, you guys don't work for us. You work for whoever in the hell else you work for. Think about it. You people are supposed to represent all of us, 75,000 or whoever many we are, but you're doing a poor job of it. You really are, including all of you. I doubt if any of you could talk to this gentleman about business, bringing business here. This is a low-income city. And the only way you can find to tear us apart is this number 11, and I'm going to be back 3 more times because that's exactly what you guys are doing. The thing on the mosquito thing.
No, you have to stay on the subject.
Oh, sorry, I got off the wrong project.
That's fine.
I got 40 seconds yet. Quit interrupting. You people do not respect our wishes. I'm not the only one that says this. When you walk out in the city, they tell you all the time, what's happening with the city council? You know what I tell them? If you don't show up, all your words to me mean nothing. But as you can see, the doors are loaded. Bad, very bad. Listen to this. I got 10 seconds. I'm going to say it fast. I have not seen any of you council people in my neighborhood. And I can tell you the only time you're there, somebody's bell is ringing.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so moving along at this point with individuals that are against.
Greg Tuttle, business owner. I'd like to find out, I really just have a question here. Who's the engineer report? Who did the report?
Go ahead and finish off, and then we'll say it. Sam, Jimmy, wait until after, please.
You can take my minutes and do it. It's just
No,
simple
go ahead.
question.
That's all you want?
Yeah.
That's all. Okay, well, go ahead.
Yeah, the consultant who prepared the report is here.
What's his name? What's the company? Pardon me? Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tuttle. All right, thank you. All right, so at this point, moving along. So these are against the proposed tax.
Now, the proposed tax is for the maintenance of the citywide parks, correct? Okay. There's a gentleman back there by the name of Jesse Flores who coaches No Limit softball girls team here in Baldwin Park, who's reached out to the community, who's reached out to Parks and Recs to try to get a space for these girls to practice at that he doesn't charge like other traveling teams do. I know that he went to Manny Carrillo and he sent him to, I believe, Armando. He's being charged a per hourly rate to use Shire Park when the soccer leagues are using every single possible field they can use around the entire city. When this gentleman took these 9 to 12-year-old girls to Shire Park, and he's got pictures, and I have pictures of it myself because I helped him sponsor the team, these restrooms were disgusting. I mean, you would not allow your own children to go into these restrooms.
We got to get back on the subject.
Well, I mean, the thing is that you're trying to tax us so that we can pay for more park maintenance when they're not even taking care of the ones you have. That's my point. I mean, you're not even cleaning the restrooms out at Shire Park, so why are you going to tax us to go and clean other, I mean, to extend our taxes for the citywide park maintenance when you're not even taking care of the ones that we have? That's my point. You're trying to tax us for more money to clean these restrooms or these parks and maintenance it when Shire Park is a disaster and these girls are having to use these restrooms where there's spider webs, trash, and who knows what else is there. That's what I'm trying to get you guys to understand. Look around, speak to the community, the people that you guys were supposed to represent that you're not. You're representing yourselves instead of representing the community.
Okay, are we going to stay on the tax part, or are you campaigning? What's going on here?
Am I campaigning?
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
We'll stay on this.
No, the problem is that you cannot accept the fact that someone calls you out on your lies and on your corruption. That's your problem. Don't accuse me of campaigning when I'm up here telling you the truth. Okay? Tell this to the people that voted you in. That you're supposed to represent.
Are you going to stay on?
Yeah, well, now I'm not, because now you took me off of it. I'm talking to you about the tax, and you're over here talking to me about campaigning. Are you serious?
Yes.
Grow up. That's what
Manny Carrillo for a report.
Yeah, and Manny Carrillo, let's follow up on that about the restrooms in the Shire Park.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right. Okay,
but I'm not sure, is Shire Park a part of?
Yes, it is. It's the
Yes,
county.
it's part
It
of-
was
It's not a-
part of
it's
the
not a
county, part of
responsibility,
Bassett,
right?
and we took on the responsibility.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there is a cost for those lights being on. And I know I worked with Mr. Flores once before, and there is an expenditure there, so I don't know what we can do and how we could possibly work in that particular, but I'm going to get out, I'm off subject myself. So let's get back on here. All right, so at this point, sorry about that. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and move, so anyone that's against, yes, oh yeah, come on up.
I want to ask how you using that taxation, because I'm and my history and my business is always is está lleno de basura. La barredora, the swiper only pass twice a month. So how you use that taxation?
Okay.
So also the old neighborhood and around the Best and Fraser and Garvey, is maybe it's a deposit of the trash, the freeways, and the city, because always is very, very dirty. There is embarrassing live in that area. I also have the business in that area. The people joking about me because I need to swipe my city walk and also the street. Because I don't know how you use the money.
Okay.
So we need to improve the cleaning up the city. The first clean up the city, and then all the ones projects you have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, and at this point, it's against. So, all right, at this point, I'm going to take those that are in favor. See no interests. I now declare the public hearing closed. Let me just first of all say that in 1996, the City of Baldwin Park property owners approved the formation of a park maintenance assessment district to financially support these programs. And the PMD, which is a park maintenance assessment formation, was established in conference with Proposition 218, which were required by law that any maintenance assessment has to be voted by the ballpark residents. And I remember because I voted for it. 1996, 218, that's the law. It was placed on the ballot so that the residents could vote for it, and it was voted in. And that's the reason why it is currently enacted. Now, just to let everyone know, it's 58 cents. Thank you very much per year, which adds up to about 4.8 cents per year per month. Excuse me. So just want to let everyone know. So yes, it was approved by the residents in 1996, overwhelmingly by law. 218, which is we're required to take it to the voters, and that's one of the reasons why it is here. So it's not nothing new, just to let everyone know. And we'll answer the questions that you're asking as well. So, Manny, we need to address some of those issues that mentioned up here up front, which are important. So let's please follow up on that as well.
Mayor?
So, yes.
I would like to ask, are we
Yes.
at that point now where we can ask?
Yeah, that's fine.
I would like to know, this $185,000, which would be the city contribution, right? An additional $185,000?
That's correct. It's supplemental.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was Giovanni Carrillo. $185,000, and this is my question. We pay a company now, a sanitation company that cleans our parks. We don't do it in-house anymore. Apparently that didn't work out. So is that going to be in addition to what they're being paid, or are we raising their salaries? Because it is true, the bathrooms are in real bad condition. And I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that homeless people, we tried locking them, and Manny and his staff have been really great. But does this also include the cleanup after events and concerts? Because the other morning, and I know, and believe me, I know that our staff works really hard, especially after concerts. But the other morning at 6 a.m, and I know it was very early because our staff hadn't been able to get there, when K-Love, the radio station, came, some of our staff was picking up some of the trash and so that it would look nice, so that when they arrived, it wouldn't look bad. So and thank you very much for that. Some of your staff, Manny, was actually doing that. And thank you for that. And I know we work really hard, but I want to know, I don't think we've done a follow-up in about a year to see how this janitorial company, not sanitation, I'm sorry, the janitorial company is working out. Because I know that especially at Morgan Park, and I will tell you that I understand that we do have a lot of transients, a lot of complaints about the transients using the bathroom, especially at Morgan Park. However, I still get a lot of complaints, like in the morning from some of the seniors that do the exercising, or in the middle of the afternoon, 3-4, when some of the mothers and the parents come with their small children. What can we do? Is this 185 going to guarantee us cleaner and more maintenance in our parks? Or what is this in addition to what we're already paying for the janitorial? Because I need to clarify, because those are some of the questions that'll come to us, actually, as elected officials.
If I may interject, I believe these are separate items. The contract for the janitorial company is separate from the assessment.
It's separate from the park maintenance district. So.
Yes.
So what does this include then? The 185 difference. It's a difference, right? From what I understand, it's an additional 185.
Yeah, it's an additional 185 to meet the expected cost for maintenance in parks. So we do a lot of work with keeping the turf good, fixing the bathrooms,
fixing the restrooms, the graffiti, the repairs, electrical repairs, plumbing, repairs, things of that nature.
Covers weekly mowing, trimming, edging, covers the irrigation, the watering of the turf. It'll pay the water bill for the watering of the turf, fertilizer on the turf, probably maintenance of the playground equipment.
Okay, but here again, we didn't have the report, and I apologize. I probably wouldn't be asking all these questions if the report would have been attached to the staff report. There are no engineers' reports on any of these.
No, we did an attachment. I think the staff report says that it's available at the city clerk's office.
But could it be included in our packet instead of me going over there or asking for it?
Yeah, absolutely.
For future, I mean, I don't know if everyone else wants it in their packet, but I know I do. So that when I look at it over the weekend, I can read it, and we won't be here till 10 o'clock at night with all the questions.
Yeah, I don't see why we can't include it in the next annual.
Sam, I just have one more question, if I may. Is 185,640 the usual amount, or has it increased this year from our general fund?
I am not too familiar with the history of it. I just this is the first time that I'm tackling this. But
is there anybody that can answer that?
Well, we do have the consultant here that can answer that question.
Rose, and I'm not sure if you recall, I know we were trying to reduce general fund costs, and if this is one of the accounts that we were able to reduce. I know it's very close to what we spent last year.
I can explain this item. Every year we collected the taxes from the assessment district, and based on the operation, whatever the difference, every single year we transfer the difference to make up to cover all those expenses. So since we did not collect enough taxes from the park and maintenance fund, so the general fund has to contribute 185,640 cents.
Okay, so that's an estimation.
$40 to this.
For this coming year, correct?
Year. So every single fiscal year is a little bit different.
Okay, thank you, Rose. I appreciate you answering the question.
I have one more question.
Yes.
Because we already approved the budget. Is this going to make a difference than what we approved?
If it's approved, it will be less cost to the general fund in the coming fiscal year.
Thank you.
All right, so at this point, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve, adopt Resolution 2016-136, entitled A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Baldwin Park approving the engineer's report for the citywide maintenance assessment district for fiscal year 2016-17, declaring the intent to levy and collect assessment. That is my motion.
Second.
Any objections? Seeing none, so moved. All right, at this point, we're going to the next, public hearing that we have. Excuse me.
Which item number is that, Mayor?
12, sir. We should be out here before 1 o'clock. All right.
I'll make sure you
item
are.
12, which is the conduct a public hearing, and following the public hearing, adopt resolution number 2016-137, approving the engineer's report for the citywide landscaping and lighting maintenance assessment district for fiscal year 2016-2017, declaring the intent to levy and collect assessment. So at this point, who is handling this? Can we do a short report?
Yes, that would be me as well.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what you have here before you is 3 proposed changes to the solid waste collection fees for your consideration.
No, I think we're in the wrong one.
No, 12, number 12.
When is 12?
Landscape and lighting.
Oh, we're still on the district.
No, this is
Number 12.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I thought we were.
Okay, go ahead. That's fine. That's fine.
It's late for all of us. So.
Yeah. With this annual assessment, we're proposing no increase in fees at all. We have reached the statutory limit approved by voters about 14 years ago. In fact, we haven't raised this rate in the last 14 years. The hearing is part of an annual program to give residents the opportunity to voice opposition.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
No, we have the hearing. We have the hearing. All right, so at this point, I will now open up. Thank you very much, people. Okay, and the evening's getting around with everyone. All right, so at this point, I'm going to open up for those that are against.
Hello, City Council residents. I don't know about the lady over here, but when somebody puts a levy on you, that's money. And anytime I don't have to pay it, I don't want to pay it. The reason they put levy and collect, because it's a tax. I don't care what she says or anybody up here says. Think about it. I'm going to levy a tax on all of you guys, and I want to collect it next week. Next city council meeting, I'm going to charge you $500 a piece. I'm going to put a levy on you, and I want the collection next Wednesday when we have a meeting. Now, is that okay? City council, is that okay? Anybody want to complain, or is it acceptable? I know the chief looking at me like, you're crazy. Right, chief? But I'm going to put a levy on you people. Do you want a levy? And I'll collect. How's that? The 3 young ladies here, the 5 council people, the CEO, and you, all of you. That would be okay. Because I can guarantee you, these people out here, I'll give them their share too. That sounds pretty good, huh? Oh, by the way, 1997, or whatever the mayor said, that was what, 30, 40 years ago, maybe 50. And you're still harping about that? Jiminy crickets. You know what? The more I think about it, the more I disagree with all of you. I'm wondering if you got, well, the next meeting's next month, right? So I'm going to levy you guys $500 a piece. Oh, bring it in. Don't bother to send me a check. Bring cash. I don't take checks and I don't use credit cards. How's that sound? No complaints, I guess. Sounds good. Anyhow, that's what a levy is, ma'am. I don't know how you read it. You may look at it in a dictionary, interpret it any way you wish. A levy and collection means taxes. I know I didn't go to college, and I didn't go beyond that. But man, I don't care how you look at it, a levy is a collection of taxes. And you know what? I got 40-some seconds to go. I wonder how many of you will bring me $500. Thank you for laughing at me, young lady. But you know what? This is getting bad because I'll be back again. I'm going to tell you the same thing. You guys have had this money over 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. You need more? Where you can spend all this money? Are you giving it to one individual that he needs to be taken? You collect this every year. What the heck are you doing with the money? Where's the money that you collected last year for this year? Tell me that.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving along with anyone who's opposing. At this point, I'll move it over to anyone that's supporting it. All right, well, let me first of all surprise Mr. Luna. And everyone that's here, we're not levying any tax here. We just assessment at all. We're just this has to be brought up here for the open hearing. So unless anyone has any questions, I'm going to go ahead and move for approval. We're not.
I have just one question, just
Yes.
for clarification. Can you explain what the penalties come from? Only because I don't know. Who can explain that to me? How do you come up with that number? It's 93,500.
Yeah,
on the report.
I'd like to invite our consultant to.
Sure, come on up.
Just out of curiosity, the penalties,
You have
the
to come
earnings.
up to the lectern, sir.
Good evening. I'm
Good
Chuck
evening.
Crandall with Community Economic Solutions. And those penalties, late fees, those are the people who did not pay their property taxes. They don't pay this portion of the property tax bill. And they would be penalized for that.
So we get the full amount of the penalty?
That would probably, unless there's also any type of penalties or anything, any other charges for lighting and landscaping that I'm not aware of, but that's where I understand where it would come from.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies it. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so at this point, we'll go ahead and adopt resolution number 2016-137 entitled, "A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Baldwin Park approving the engineer's report for the citywide landscaping and lighting maintenance assessment district for fiscal year 2016-17, declaring the intent to levy and collect assessments." So that is my motion.
Second.
Second, any objections? See none, so move. All right, the next item 13, which is another hearing, is conduct a public hearing to consider the rate adjustment request for solid waste fees, and following the public hearing, adopt resolution number 2016-138 approving the rate adjustment. So at this point, Mr. Gutierrez, sir, did you want to cover it real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Item 13.
Yeah, as I was saying before, so there are three proposed fee increases to the solid waste collection fees for your consideration. The first proposed fee is related to the contractual obligation that the city has with the franchise agreement, and it's in accordance with the Consumer Price Index for garbage and trash collection. The increase in fees will affect all customers: residential, commercial, multifamily, and industrial. In accordance with the agreement, solid waste collections fees are to be adjusted every year annually. The fees, however, do have a cap of 5%, meaning that if the increase is beyond 5%, then the difference gets carried over to the next year. This year, however, the proposed fee increase is only 1.46%. The second set of fees is related to the recycling of organics. This fee will impact certain commercial and industrial customers. The fee is mandatory under the California State Assembly Bill 1826. Under this bill, cities are required to start implementing an organics recycling program. If the city does not begin an organics program, it could face some fines sometime in the future. The third proposed fee is due to a quarantine on the collection of green waste. Sections of Los Angeles County, including the city of Baldwin Park, have been placed under quarantine for the collection of green waste by the Department of Food and Agriculture. The mandate requires that all green waste collected in the quarantined areas be handled in a specific manner. Waste Management is proposing to pass a pass-through cost associated with the mandate to the residential green waste customers. The proposed increase translates to an 81 cents. It's 81 cents per home per month increase in the service to the residential green waste cart customers. If this quarantine is lifted, the fee will be eliminated. So at this point, to be in compliance with Proposition 218, the City Council is to open a public hearing and consider all public testimony.
All right.
I would like to add that a notice was mailed out to all residents outlining these fees. In that, there was instructions on how to write in a protest, and I want to add that I did not receive any written documents in opposition nor in favor of the increase.
All right, real quick, hold on. Okay. I'm going to open up the public hearing. What I want to do is I want to move this over to another meeting because there's a lot of other questions and concern. Well, hold on. I'm going to, all right. Okay, all right. All right, so this one.
I would really like for you to finish. I agree with moving it over.
Yes.
Please finish.
Yes.
I know what we're agreeing to.
Right, because, I mean, it's very controversial, and I do have a lot more questions, and I want to make sure that the Waste Management representatives are here. I mean, and I'm definitely concerned about this particular subject.
We have Waste Management representatives here today.
Well, let's tell you what. Let's save it for next time. Okay. Let's do it maybe at a study session where we could dedicate the whole study session to this particular subject. It is important and controversial at the same time. So what I will do at this point, and Ricardo, just hold on a second. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Let's just do the public hearing. So anyone wishing to speak against the proposal. The proposed waste management.
Well, Mayor, I just want to clarify something. We're going to have the public speak on it. I think And correct me if I'm wrong, because I understand item 1 was a CPI, and then the second item was mandated by the state for us to have a recycling program. And I'm hearing that number 3 is mandated by the state. From my understanding, the law says that it's mandated for the company, not the city.
Right.
Am I wrong?
Okay.
So we are not mandated as the city. The waste company is mandated by the city, by the state. Can you clarify that point?
Yes, is this for the, this is for the
The quarantine.
The green waste?
Number 3.
Yes, that is correct.
So it's not mandated for us. Just to be clear, it's mandated for the company.
They're passing on the bill.
So ultimately they're responsible for paying it, but they're asking for us to share the costs. Am I correct? Thank you.
Mayor, can we continue with public
Yeah,
hearing?
wait, let me open up the public, which is part, and also written in the actual contract itself, just to let everyone know. So at this point, I'm opening up the public hearing, so this is anyone wishing to speak against? Opposing?
Against.
Okay.
Ken Woods, I'm a longtime resident. About the time that sweet contract was signed, and you guys got that $1 million kickback, I got a letter from Waste Management for my business. And that letter said that for the past 20 years, I have been breaking state law by accepting their service that they were giving me. Therefore, they were going to cut my dumpster in half from a 3-yard to a 1.5 yards. And instead of paying that $475 a year, I now pay $1,200 a year. So I've tripled, 300% raise in my trash bin that's now half the size, which is still adequate. But, and also I got that letter with that form, but not being a mathematical genius, I couldn't figure it out. There are 3 pages solid full of figures, columns, that the average person, believe me, just threw that thing away. They never even looked at it because it's so complicated. I don't know if any of you guys got it. Mr. Pacheco, I'm sure you figured it out because you're a genius. But I'm not. I'm just an average guy, and I could not figure it out. But anyway, your expenses can only go up so much. And they just keep going and going and going and going and going. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, anyone wishing to speak against?
Jesus Garcia, a resident for 40 years or more. I'm going to go back to something that Councilmember Susan Rubio said. Those letters that they supposedly went out for this increase or proposed increase, I didn't receive it, and I also belong to the board members of the water company for Valley View, and I asked them, and they also said they didn't receive this letter. So I don't know where did they send this letter to the residents, but some of us didn't receive it, just like she didn't receive that one letter, and also Cruz, you didn't receive the letters to your properties.
Okay, that's a whole different subject because right now we're speaking if you're waste management.
The point is I'm talking about the letter that supposedly went out for this proposed increase.
Oh, gotcha.
And so I had somebody read it to me over the phone, and I have my letter here for the protest. But especially for that one, which is for the quarantine or for the, which is Asian citrus fly or whatever it is, that they're supposedly send somebody out to render service to put something on the trees or whatever. But anyways, some of us don't have citrus trees, and and some of us don't have trees at all. And for the waste management to propose this fee increase or surcharge to everybody, every resident in the city of Baldwin Park, that's what I'm protesting against, is to charge everybody for something that they didn't even, they don't have, or they didn't receive any services, having somebody come down and put something in their trees. Thank you.
Valid questions. Thank you very much. Alrighty. Moving along with anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, against. Good evening.
I'm very disagree with the increase the price the waste management. I know I always say $5 for the city. Mm-hmm. So I know we need to pay back the city for administration and everything, but why how consider the price or the cost for the business or the resident? How consider the price? Because they charge me 350% over the last business owner than I now owner. So he pay $32 a month, and I pay $169.
Wow.
That is a small business. I am agreeing to pay. But also when I go to the street, I'm resident in Baldwin Park. When I go to the street and see all furniture outside the house or the multiple family, what they charge for or they receive one call, but anybody call, the furniture be there 3 weeks, 2 months. When we stop to move around, because that is embarrassing. Okay. Lived in this country and lived in this city and they have that kind of service is bad. I'm not agreeing to pay that money. I agree, but I expect to receive better service. But no, believe me, I don't agree because it's too much.
Okay, I hear
it's too much. I pay $70 for the electricity bill.
Wow.
And for the trash, I pay the recycle. I pay the county for the other kind of the trash. So I pay only because I have the waste management announcement and the bunker there. I have 3 months, and I expect to have. I want to keep it out from my business the can. Because I don't want to pay the service when I don't receive good service. No quiero pagar un servicio que es de pésima calidad. Sí, vivo en la ciudad de Baldwin Park, en United States, no en un tercer mundo.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
She
yes,
said,
go
I
ahead.
don't want to pay for service, that it's bad quality. I live in Baldwin Park in the United States, not in a third world country.
All right. Okay, so, go ahead. Then we'll...
Hello, City Council, residents of Baldwin Park. We gave Waste Management a super contract. 10 years, guys. 10 ladies and guys, gentlemen. 10 years we gave them a contract. What are they going to do, bankrupt us? It sure in the heck looks like it, huh? Number one, start out with the little guy, the city resident. You shoot him down, and then you got the corporations to shoot down. I got a good question for her. I know you won't answer it, but how much does Walmart pay for their disposal? How much does Home Depot pay for their disposal? How much does Kaiser pay for their disposal? How much does that corner of Puente and Francisquito that's been empty for 600 years, how much did they pay? I know, probably that much. Why? Because you people allowed it. 5 council people. Okay, might not be you people, but 18 years, 59 years, 72 years, and so on and so on. You were here when this was all going on. So I know you won't tell nobody, but I'll ask you anyway. Next city council meeting, tell me how much green waste, toxic, or whatever you want to call it, they spend. Hospitals have a lot of waste. I want to know how much they spend. I'll tell you what, bunch of zeros, because you guys gave it to them free. How much is the city of Baldwin Park waste? Solid waste? Any kind of waste. I bet you guys don't even have an idea. The young guy here that wants you people to approve this garbage, he's going to get his wish, because he knows Pacheco, the mayor, and Garcia will pass it no matter what. You could have a line from here to heaven knows where, and you people would still pass it. Think about it. I don't know why I say that, but the gentleman here that's trying to push this, he got his 2 wishes already. He's got 1 more. And when I get through talking, or whoever else, you guys are going to pass it anyway. Because everybody in Baldwin Park knows exactly who's going to vote and how you 3 people vote. Marlene asked one time, why do you people criticize us? She's never even thought of going around and asking the people that work in this city. You know why? Because those are not the people she wants to talk to. The only person that I've seen around town, Señora Baca. My God, did you hurry that? I think so.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, move along. Against the proposed waste management. All right.
Greg Tuttle, business owner. I don't understand why you're having a public hearing when you want to carry it over. Terry Muse isn't here to answer these questions that these people have concerns on. But you're putting a public hearing now. Are we going to have another one? And I know everybody knows pretty much that the council got $1 million from Waste Management when they approved the contract. What they don't know is it wasn't sent out for competitive bidding, because I know with Athens was wanting to bid on this, and VJ discouraged it all and didn't tell anybody with Athens to do a bid process, because the mayor's on the board for Waste Management. Pacheco gets, through his 700 forms proof, he gets a free lunch almost every month. So the thing is here, you guys got paid off. You made the businesses pay the first year on an increase. Then you go in here, you get $1 million to stick into your reserve account. Say, oh, look how great we've done. We saved money. No, you just took it off the businesses and the residents. The thing here is you never did any competitive bidding. You were so worried about this asphalt company that you didn't do the right bidding. You didn't give it to the lowest guy. You didn't do it on quality. You did it on price. And there's a reason the guy didn't have a bond for over $500,000. His work probably wasn't competent. The guy that did do the other work over on Ramona was fantastic. I would have used him and paid an extra $200,000. But you're going to go $200,000 more in expenses checking on this guy. But with this trash thing, it's all bought and paid for. They all got in trouble in Montebello on this deal, and it's going to come here too. You guys just keep letting this company raise and raise and raise these businesses and residents, and they're going to say enough. You know what? We'll take our trash somewhere else. Like they tried the recycling deal. They wanted you to pay for a recycling can at your shop, and they would pick it up and charge you for it. Are you serious? They make money on the recycling. And guess who else makes money on a kickback? The city does. All the trash that's picked up in this city, you get a revenue from it. Did you tell anybody that? No. This is the problem. You people need to understand they can't keep doing this, and the contract that you did do with this was illegally done to begin with because you didn't have any competitive bidding. But boy, you were worried, and I don't know where the money's going to go and where this guy's paying off, but I'm sure Pacheco was fighting awful hard for the boy. I'm sure there was a payoff. And $200,000, there's a reason for that. That's not because that guy overbid. Okay, I'm
Thank
done.
you very much. All right, moving along. Anyone else wishing to speak against? At this point, I will move it for anyone wishing to speak in favor. All right, as I requested, this is going to be moved over. So what I want to do is place this. Yeah. Oh, well, let me go ahead and close the public hearing at this point. Oh, speak in favor. Okay, this is in favor. You're from Waste Management.
Hey, I'm Mr. Mayor and
Oh.
members of council. I'm
How are
Doug
you?
Corcoran.
Sorry about that, bud.
That's okay. If it's going to be continued, maybe I could reserve comments till then. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't going to get sideways with any restrictions regarding a Prop 218 required hearing, and that moving it to the next meeting isn't going to somehow create an issue with
Legal
that.
counsel. I don't think it is.
Yes, there's no problem opening and closing the public hearing and then continuing this item until the next meeting. It complies with Prop 218.
Okay, that's great. Then I'll just hold, and you said you wanted to do a study session.
Yes.
I'll be glad to stay here to talk as long as anybody wants to talk. We'll go through every detail that anybody up on council, anybody out here in the audience wants to go through. I'll be happy to answer any questions at that point.
Okay, yeah, exactly. And also, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so just to let everyone know, what I want to do is, hopefully we all agree, at this point we'll close up the public hearing, so that's closed. Want to bring this back, that's going to be my request, so I'll make a motion to bring this back to the following meeting. That's my
Second.
second by Councilman Cruz Baca. Any objection? See none, so move. The reason why I'm doing that, because yes, there's a lot more questions. We want to set up the actual study session right here at 6 p.m. so that the audience will have an opportunity to come up to public communication and say what they want to say. So, is everyone, can we go ahead and agree to that?
Yeah, I agree. That's
Okay,
fine.
so that's what we'll do. So in essence, 6 p.m. the next in August. Exactly, it's not a public hearing, but we'll have the public communication.
When is it? I'm sorry.
That would be the
August 2nd,
Is it August 2nd? Okay, the first
Wednesday
weekend.
in August. August
Is
3rd,
that you
I'm
want?
sorry.
You
That
want?
is before our regular meeting, correct?
Yes, that is
what-
correct. All right, so that's what we'll do, and we'll have it 6 p.m. here. So this way we'll open up to everyone and the public communication section. All right? All right, so at this point.
Mayor, just a quick point, and I don't appreciate Cruz Baca, your campaign manager, making references that somehow I'm taking contributions from them, but Cruz Baca, you also took $1,000 campaign. It shows on your 460. So, sir, you're going to mention something about that. You should need to mention everybody, right? Thank you.
Mayor, why are you allowing that?
Thank
We
you.
talked
Okay.
about respect on the dais.
All right, okay, at this point, let's move. Let's just move forward.
No, Mayor,
Yes.
just
Mayor,
one
you shouldn't
second,
allow
please.
that.
Go ahead.
You know, I mean, I am the
if
first
you want to
person-
address someone, please do that, but don't disrespect someone on the dais like that. That's uncalled for, Mayor.
Disrespectful. I'm just
We need to
pointing
keep
out-
the
Hold on, you
quorum.
guys. All right, hold on. Let's
Mayor?
maintain ourselves. Councilman Cruz
I
Baca,
would
go
like
ahead.
to say something, is that first of all, I don't know why several of my elected official colleagues keep repeating that Mr. Tuttle is or has been my campaign manager. You know, really and truly, this is in very poor taste. If you have something, please don't waste. These people have been here all evening, and so have we. If you want to discuss this with me, I'll be glad to do it, Ricardo, like I've asked you on many occasions, but you don't. You don't meet with me, and you don't talk to me. So please, be respectful up here. Please.
I am
want to
respectful,
appreciate
Cruz.
your comments.
Okay,
I have
hold on.
never insulted you up here.
Yes, you have.
Never
You're-
have
you're
had.
campaign
Hold on, allow her
manager.
to finish. Allow her to finish, please.
So you know what? I don't want to continue. If you want to continue this discussion, we can do it after when we close. Because look, everyone, including myself, we're falling asleep here, and they don't want to listen to this.
All right. So at this point, okay, we're going to go ahead and move on, and we're going to go to item 14, which is to conduct a public hearing regarding the amendment to the fiscal year 2016-17 Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, and Home Investment Partnership Fund. Let me go ahead,
Well,
Susan Relis.
For the purpose of time, you can open the public hearing, and if you have any questions, I'm here, or I can go ahead and make.
But let me go ahead and open up the public hearing. So anyone wishing to speak in favor of the CDBG? All right, well, that's fair. Come on up.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight's public hearing is required to receive input regarding the proposed amendment to the fiscal year 16-17 annual action plan. The 16-17 annual plan was submitted to HUD as required by the May 26th deadline. However, during the city budget process, it was determined that there was a need for revisions to the projects and allocations for this year. The proposed amendments can be found on Table 1 of the staff report. Also included is a designation of the CDBG code enforcement areas required for code enforcement activities this year. After identifying the city's low-income areas and analyzing the need for neighborhood improvements and community services, police department and housing staff identified the areas noted in Table 2 as the CDBG code enforcement designated areas. At the request, Baldwin Park Police Department also reallocated their Pride Platoon Explorer program funds to two separate programs, the existing Domestic Violence Advocate and a new CDBG program, which is not new to police, but it is new to CDBG, the Police Explorers. I am available if you have any questions.
All right. So at this point, I will go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone opposing? See no further interest. I now declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember, have any questions? If not,
Yes.
I'll move. Okay, yeah, Councilmember Cruz Baca.
First of all, it's the same question that I asked before. We had approved the CDBG, correct? About a month or so ago?
Yes, that was the final was approved in May.
Okay. So this concerns me. We're doing away with the Pride Platoon, and I've spoken to the chief, and he did give me an explanation. However, I would really, unless you have a deadline, Susie, I would really like to bring this back. The Pride Platoon to me is like a stepping stone. It's like a stepping stone to being an explorer. The Pride Platoon, from what I understand, and it's been around for it was around for a long time, that it was for at-risk type kids or kids that couldn't find themselves for whatever reason, from what I understand. I came to many graduations and saw parents that I know myself from the neighborhoods that we grew up in, weeping because their children had rose above all whatever was going on. Some of them were going on to becoming law enforcement once they got through college or whatever. Some of them were going to become paramedics or firemen or whatever. All of them had beat all odds through the Pride Platoon program that our officers had worked so hard and volunteered a lot of their hours doing that. I see a shame in doing away with that because I really truly believe it's a stepping stone, like I said, to being an explorer, to later being, which we have officers that we've hired that were explorers. And what are we to say that we won't be using some of these explorers or these Pride Platoon kids to become some of our police officers, maybe not here in Baldwin Park, but they'll go on to the sheriff's department or other law enforcement. And that really concerns me. It really, truly does.
I'll answer your question in the two. As far as a timeline, no, we are not as far as CDBG is concerned, but I can defer that to the finance director, who can discuss the issues with the city budget and CDBG changes. And as far as the Pride Platoon program, I can defer that to the chief to discuss whatever concerns or interests you
If
may
I
have.
may interject, so we can save some time here. If you don't mind, Chief, I actually would like to see a written report as to the program. I mean, why did we do away with it? If we need funding, then if it's a funding issue, I want to know, because I know that I was fighting for more funding through the CDBG funds in the past to keep the program going. And I feel instead of like enhancing programs, we're doing away with programs. And so I really, like I said, you can explain it. It will take a little while, and I don't want to take their time. Can you have a written report by next council meeting so we can just outline what's happening with those programs? And if that's gone, what are we doing to supplement? Is there another program in place or something that we're thinking about? And along those lines, if you don't mind, for next council meeting.
I can do that,
I'm sorry,
Councilwoman Rubio, but I can answer your question in 2 seconds. No, we're not doing away with the program. We're just revamping the program. There has to be some changes to it from the way we were doing it. And the second thing is, because we didn't have the time to do that right now, we're conferring with the city attorney on the way we're doing the program now to modify it. We wanted to keep the money and use it for the Explorer program, which is also a kid-based program that we have that we're enhancing, and the numbers are increasing in our Explorer Post program. And a lot of the children need funding for special events that they don't have, clothing and things like that.
Well, and I know because, I mean, I know how the funding works. You know, there's an expectation every year. So, for example, all the, you know, nonprofits that we've helped, it becomes an expectation. And so my concern is once you start adjusting the figures, it'll be very difficult to come back and say, let's put 30,000 in this program, because it'll be gone. And I think I would have wished like we could have used that money to keep something going, because again, I'm still a little bit confused about the amount as well, because the money doesn't make sense to me. It says right here that we're doing away with the private platoon, which is 22,000. Susie, can you explain the difference? Because I see that the difference for code enforcement is 87,000 and domestic violence is 10,000, police explorer is 11,000, and yet private platoon is the only one that we're doing away with. Can you explain? The numbers are a little confusing. Thank you.
The increase for code enforcement was different than the other two projects. The increase for code enforcement came from the storm drain project. The storm drain project didn't require to be named on the amendment because it didn't affect it enough to meet the required substantial amendment requirements. But it is noted in the staff report that that's where the money came from. So the code enforcement was increased by the 87,000 that came completely from the storm drain project.
Okay.
And then the 22,000 is the one that was split between the two programs, the domestic violence advocate and the police explorer. And if I may, Chief, respond to the concern of possibly affecting the other public services, is that's one of the reasons why we kept it with the police department, because I as well really do love the Pride Platoon program. And we suggested that the police keep the money, not allocate it to anybody else, so that there is that expectation for the next year. The police are the ones that have it within themselves, and then they'll be able to do what they need to do for the Pride Platoon. It wasn't that the Pride Platoon was not successful, it was just there had to be some changes this year.
Just for future, if you don't mind, I know because we see this individually, like all the police expenses. Can you bring, in the future, if this ever happens again, the entire table so we can see all the expenses and we can see a balance, you know, item per item? It makes it a little easier to understand. Thank you.
And I have one more on the code enforcement. That 87,000, is that because we brought the part-time employees into full-time?
Again, I will defer that to the finance director.
Oh, okay. The $87,000 difference, 87,706, from the 200, from the 120 that have been allocated. Is that because the code enforcement officers that were part-time became full-time a few months back?
Yes. We used to have four part-time code enforcement officer, and in the prior fiscal year, that's one of the goals that the city is going to convert those 4 part-time code enforcement officer to 3 full-time code enforcement officer.
Okay, thank you. And explain to me one thing: the Korak storm drain project. How is that money able to be allocated to code enforcement? Is it because it's a part of code enforcement to go out there and check the storm drain when they started to check, you know, the runoffs and so forth?
No, it's basically just a pull of CDBG money, and it's a reallocation of funding, is what it is.
Okay.
The code of a Korak project would have had to have been identified in the amendment if it went over the certain threshold that it affected it by. But because it did not, that's why it wasn't identified. But I do understand Councilmember Rubio's concern about noting it.
Yeah.
But it is just a pull of CDBG money. It's not code enforcement. I mean, it's not Korak storm drain funding any longer. It's just the pull of funding.
Okay. Thank you.
Alrighty. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to make a motion. If someone else has any other further questions. Second, any objections? Seeing none, so moved. All right. Thank you very much. So at this point...
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to move item 15 and 16 to next week.
Hold on, which ones?
Items 15 and 16 to our next meeting.
All right, I'll go ahead and second. Any objection? Seeing none, so move. All right, item 17, which is, that's separate. Approve resolution number 2016-127, entitled Resolution of the City Council of the City of Baldwin Park appointing representatives and alternatives as officials representatives of the city and following review and appointments of members to the established committee. Let's move this over.
I'll second that.
Okay, all right. Any objections? See none, so move. All right, the next ones, do we want to go over this? Do you want to move them over?
What is it?
We can
The
move
council
them over,
communication.
please. Let's do that.
I'd rather address it now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to excuse myself from the meeting at this point.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. Yeah.
And why is that? Because I have questions?
No, just
No, because I have an
personally, I need to
early
go.
morning tomorrow. I know some of you are on vacation, but I've got to.
I'm not on vacation.
Okay.
Okay.
Or,
No, just to let,
Or-
hold on, hold
or
on.
Mayor,
Okay,
would you
wait,
like to
wait a
just-
minute. Hold on.
can-
We
can
still
I
have
move
the finance and the housing.
or can we jump to finance and housing?
All right.
What
so-
items can we continue until the next meeting?
Okay, well, this.
Well, I think you should honor at least the council request.
Mayor,
I mean,
can we-
that's
I make a
customary.
motion-
Is there a
Jump to
motion
finance.
is there a motion to go into the finance and the housing
I
authority?
make a motion to
Is there
go
a
to
motion?
finance and housing.
Okay, or there's a okay, all right, no objection. So let's go ahead and move over real quick.
Wait a minute, but we never heard the council, the staff or the council communications.
Okay, we move to
We moved them all
finance.
concurrently.
Let's go ahead and move them.
Let's move to the
All right,
finance.
so at this point,
I'll
I'm going to
motion
open up
to
the
move.
finance authority. At this point, I'd like to open up the
but
consent
wait.
calendars and the treasurer's report. That is my motion.
Second,
Any objections? See none, so move. At this point, I'd like to move for adjournment of the finance authority.
second.
Any objections? See none, so move. All right, we'll go over to the housing authority. Let me have the housing. Thank you, sir. All right, at this point, I'd like to open up the Ballpark Housing Authority, and I will move for consent calendars items 1 and 2. That's
Second.
my motion. Any objections? See none, so move. At this point, I'd like to move for adjournment of the Housing Authority. That is my motion.
Second.
Any objections? See none, so move. All right, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and go back to the council
I
communication.
would move to adjourn the meeting here.
No, I would like to, there
We
are
could-
some
we could do
important,
those next time.
yes, but there are some important
There's a
issues
mo-
that staff could start working on them
Can you-
for the next
All right,
meeting.
there's a motion on the floor to adjourn the meeting by Councilmember.
There's
Quilapa.
always
Is there a
been
second?
courtesy for council
Okay, there's a
comments. This is
second.
the
Okay, at
first
this
time I
point,
see this.
Councilmember, City Treasurer,
it's really
the roll
late.
call for adjournment of the meeting and continue. The second Councilmember, Vice Mayor Monica Garcia.
I think leaving a meeting because you have.
No, we're going to go ahead and roll call. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes, Councilmember Ricardo said yes. So we'll continue. Adjourn.
Yes, yes.
Councilmember, go ahead. Call the names out.
Mayor Pro Tem Monica Garcia. Councilmember Chris Baca.
No, we should finish
Councilmember
this.
Susan Rubio.
Absolutely not. I think we always
Mayor
give council members the
Lozano?
courtity and respect. And I
Yeah, at this point,
find
I'll go
that
ahead and just
inappropriate.
vote not to, and then allow those that want to leave at this point, that's fine. We'll continue, we'll go and finish off what the council members have here.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, okay, so at this point, let's go to item, the first one request by Councilmember Cruz Baca, discussion and direction to staff as the following, but go ahead, Councilmember.
I had already mentioned it earlier, and I wanted to either address it to the chief or I don't know if it's our Public Works Department to sort of work on bike safety. It's not necessarily the young kids with the helmets and the families riding in the bike lane. It's for the other people, like I had mentioned, the other adults that I see flying across intersections with on their bicycle. If there's some way that we could either educate them or some way that we could probably try to avoid accidents, that's all I can. We lost one young man
true.
on Ramona. It was not the driver's fault. So I just want to address some of that so that we don't see a lot of that happening here in our city.
Ballot points?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so at this point, the next one, Councilmember, go ahead.
And also, we need to have a discussion probably at the beginning of next year, so that, like I had mentioned a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, that there were sponsors that wanted to come forward to be able to pay for the 4th of July. And I would like to be able to be given that courtesy in January of 2017, that we open up for discussions about some of the sponsors that would like to pay for the 4th of July.
That's a great idea. That's fine. Alrighty.
I just want to add to that because there was a lot of people that said they wanted to help, they were willing to help, and they had money, but no one reached out, and it's no one's fault. But that was money that was lost out on, and so I really want us to take advantage of that. Thank you.
All right, so go, Councilmember Susan Rubio, you have 4 different items.
You know, the first one, which is the request and consideration for an ordinance to regulate fireworks better. But I do understand that there is an ordinance, correct me if I'm wrong,
That's correct.
City Manager, Now, the problem is we can have an ordinance all we like, but it's not being enforced. And I'll tell you, I was, of course, we were all there at the 4th of July celebration, and it felt like we were under attack, and it worries me. I had several concerns. First, we have veterans with post-traumatic stress syndrome letting me know that this was a very traumatic experience. And I'm not sure if I ever really paid attention, but it was really, really bad. And I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. It was like bombs hitting our city, and it was continual, and it didn't stop till like 2 in the morning. And then all the alarm cars were going off every 20, 15 minutes. And it was really difficult. I had mothers with babies complaining. I had family members with sick relatives, especially the elderly with dementia and other ailments that were concerned because this is foreign. There was one lady in particular that said that she finally got her mother that was sick to go to sleep with medication, and that just woke her up, and it was like, again, very traumatic. So we can't just continue to let this go. I know we've had an ordinance for so many years, but we need a plan of action. So to that, I want to say, Chief, can you tell me, what was the course of action to prepare for 4th of July? What meetings did you have? What was the implementation? Did we talk about, like, maybe how do we cover the city? How do we target those illegal fireworks? Like, what do we do to detect where they are and pursue them? Because we definitely need to start implementing some of the hefty fines that other cities are doing, because we can't continue to let our residents live like this.
Absolutely. If you'll note, I sent out an email to all the council members. We stepped up our enforcement. We had 10 officers working at the firework event, and after that, 8 officers worked nothing but fireworks for the entire rest of the evening. At that time, we handled about 169 different calls. 43 of them were firework complaints. 6 fireworks citations were issued, and approximately 150 pounds of fireworks were confiscated. These figures are up and over from last year's figures, so we're doing better work. We've passed out over 500 flyers detailing the laws and regulations surrounding the use and sale of illegal fireworks at all of the public events that we have in front of stores and other venues where the public gathers. So we've stepped up as much as we can. We've posted on the city websites, the police website. I believe that something was posted on the marquee over at Morgan Park. Yes. Also at the public events like concerts in the park and the farmers market, we've been handing out flyers. So we've tried to get the word out as much as we can, and stepped up enforcement. So these are the things that we've been doing this year. And like I said, the results were much better than last year. I agree with you, Councilwoman Rubio. I have the same problem in my community where I live in Rialto. Fireworks are going off all over the place. In fact, they were even putting it out that the police were using drones to try to find out where the fireworks were coming from, which I found out later talking to the chief that was just a rumor that was put out. So I understand, I empathize with you. We are doing the best that we can. Like I said, I put out 8 officers for the rest of that evening to go around and handle nothing but fireworks, firework patrol, and they were quite busy that night.
And I do appreciate that, but let's go back to the ordinance. Do we allow them more than the 4th of July? Can someone clarify that for me, Chief?
Yes, I believe the fireworks sales start around the 28th of June, and they do set off the safe and sane. Obviously, they do set off the illegal fireworks too, but they are permitted to use the safe and sane fireworks during the time that they purchase them from the 28th up into the 4th of July itself.
Well, I was wondering, because see, once you have the sane and sane fireworks, then that encourages the illegal fireworks at the same time. And,
absolutely.
I'm so supportive of all the nonprofits, including we have one for Sister Cities, and we make a lot of money for, different causes. However, I think we need to start respecting, the holiday, because it is really terrible to hear them a whole week in advance, and it just goes on. And like I said, if we only had those, that wouldn't be a problem. But the other illegal ones then are used. So can we tighten that ordinance to only allow, let's say, the 3rd and the 4th of July?
Well, that would be up to the council to pass a resolution that would modify it with legal counsel. The police department would have nothing to do with that other than to enforce whatever you pass in terms of a municipal code.
See, and it'll take a little while before the community kind of understands, but I think that if we tighten the ordinance, I mean, there's going to be illegal fireworks anyways, but at least we have, some recourse to go and after these people, because this time, like I said, maybe I never noticed, but it was really bad for like 3 hours nonstop until 2 in the morning. And like I said, for me, it's okay, but I worry about, those veterans with PST and, and I even I saw a documentary where they went crazy with guns, thinking they were in combat. And either way, it's just not a good way to live. So I would ask my council colleagues if we could bring it back as a resolution to tighten up the ordinance for the 3rd and the 4th of July. Again, we're just going to have to deal with everyone setting them off in different times. But really, they were meant for us to enjoy 4th of July and not an entire week of bombs going off every single day. So can we bring it back, Mayor?
Could I add something, though? I think that we should use the date when the actual sale of the fireworks, the legal fireworks, because I believe that they start selling on the 28th, Murray? Do you start selling on the 28th? So we would have to, I think, in all fairness, we would have to do it between that time span, because there are parents that start, like in my neighborhood, they go buy them on the 28th, 29th, and they're already using the fireworks instead of just the 3rd or the 4th.
Just do it for 3 days.
Yeah. So let's
well, maybe, like I said, just maybe get rid of 1 or 2 days, because like I said, I understand that they're going to use them anyways, but it curves like the illegal fireworks just a little more. I don't know if we could do it. Yeah. Right now we have 4 days. Is that what we have?
No, it starts, I think, Wednesday. I think we have 7.
I mean, yeah, that's 7 days. And like I said, the whole goal is for us to enjoy the 4th of July, not have bombs going off an entire week. 4. And so can we tighten it up? I mean, I would say cut it in half, 4 days at least.
Councilwoman Rubio, may I make another suggestion too?
Sure.
Also, the fines are stepped fines. They start out, I believe, at 100, then 200, and they go up. Where in some cities they just have a straight fine of $1,000 no matter what. So if you're going to make an addendum or a change to the municipal code, you may want to change that part too, where it's just a straight fine period.
That was my next suggestion, because I know City of Long Beach has that. I mean, they go up to $2,500, and we don't want to burden our community, but maybe we can start with a warning, first warning, and then they've been warned. They know if we catch the same person with the same, illegal fireworks, then we can pursue it. But I was going to suggest $1,000 flat fee, because, again, I'm really concerned for our seniors or children and people with disabilities and ailments. We can't continue to do this. So we can add that $1,000 fine and tighten it up to 4 days instead of 7. I would really appreciate it.
Ms. Rubio, the illegal fireworks really start about a month before the 4th of July.
I know. I know. And so that is why we're trying to figure out a way to tighten a little bit of that. Can you tell me if you guys meet as a police force in advance and talk about strategy, how to tackle all this, or is it just customary?
I can assure you this is a topic that we cover every year with our staff, and we prepare for it. The problem is that it doesn't just occur in one venue of the city. It occurs all around our city and the surrounding cities itself. It's I hate to say it's a pandemic problem, but in the city where I live, Fontana, Rialto, you see it all over the place the same way you do around here. Especially with cities that sell the Safe and Sane fireworks, they're kind of the central gathering point, if you will, where people are buying their fireworks, and it's very hard for us to differentiate during the day the sounds unless we can actually see the fireworks in the sky to kind of find out where they're coming from. So it's very tough, and then trying to get to the fireworks themselves, because a lot of times you're driving through neighborhoods where the people are legally doing Safe and Sane in the street, and you can't get to the area, and by the time you do, then the people who are doing the illegal fireworks are already gone. And that's one reason that I would caution for the warning. It's hard enough for us as it is to find the people who are doing the illegal fireworks, and once we do get them, it would be nice to be able to, without a warning, just cite them and fine them.
Well, maybe we can consider, and this is just something to think about, some kind of reward system. Pay $25 for a video of someone using illegal fireworks. I had 3 people call me saying, I videotaped my neighbor, We just have to figure this out. It just goes on every year, and I know it's no one's fault, but we have to figure it out. A lot of people are suffering because of it. And just one last point is that, cities that are next to us, like Monrovia, all the foothills, they're illegal. They don't allow them to use it because they're so close to the foothills. Well, guess what they do? They come to our city. And so we have people from Monrovia, Suze, everyone that made it illegal, not one firework, they come down here. And so we're dealing with like 3 other cities coming to our neighborhood. And if we are tougher on that, I think that they won't always come if they get caught and are fined. And I think that's a big concern as well. Okay, so we'll just bring it back and we'll discuss the details. Is that okay?
Let me just, yeah, exactly, a strong one, either 500 or 500, okay. Let me just say, because I want to hopefully kick this right to 11 o'clock, so like that will break a record. Is that, I remember at one time, we actually placed it on the ballot for the residents to decide whether we should remove the 5 words, saying, period. And it was a very close election to almost removing the actual 5 words in Baldwin Park. That probably happened, I was on the council, might have been about 15 to 16 years ago. And just to let everyone know. So there's that other alternative as well, controversial as it may be, but since you're talking about that. And I will say that I think there was a lot less louder fireworks this time around versus last year. I will say that. I think what intimidates people is you place it on the marquee and the signs along the street. So that made an impact. All right,
one more thing. I also called another city, and while I was waiting, you know how you have normally the music?
Yes.
During the whole month of July, instead of listening to music, they had this whole like warning, you know, it's 4th of July, beware, it's 1,000. So I kept hearing all the warning signs about the fines. And so that might be a good idea instead of music to have that announcement on there.
A good deterrent. All right, we'll go to the next one, Councilmember.
Okay, so the next one is that I'm requesting consideration to renegotiate consulting contracts with overlapping services that have not produced results. This is a big concern for me, and I believe I remember Councilmember Cruz Baca at the time that we gave these contracts. We were discussing the overlapping services, and we wanted to know specifically what the services were going to be, so then we could determine if they're overlapping, but they were given without us seeing what we were paying for. And I'm starting to notice that we are paying twice for the same services. Just to give you an example, earlier today we had Cosman giving us this beautiful presentation on economic development and everything they're doing, and we could all agree it was nicely done, right? And so here I have a bill for another company that we're paying, and we're paying $344.82 for a conversation with Hilda Solis's office, conversation and how they're going to implement economic development. And if we're paying $344 for a conversation with the supervisor's office about economic development, and now we're paying Cosman earlier for implementing the economic development, I see a really big problem with that. We're paying this company $172.41 per hour. I think probably there's only one person in this entire city that gets close to that. And for $172.41, I mean, we could hire someone full time. So that's one way I see this to be a duplicate at $172 an hour. Why would someone else need to talk to the supervisor's office about economic development when we already paid Cosman to do that, and they presented and we saw the results? I also started taking little samples of conversations that were on this bill. For example, they talked to a resident in Baldwin Park. I don't know the nature of the conversation. Anyways, it says here that they spend 4.5 hours at $172.41. That means that we ended up paying them $775 to have a conversation with one person. I called that person to inquire about the length of their meeting, and I was assured that that meeting didn't go more than an hour and a half, at the most. Yet we're paying $775 per hour for that conversation with that individual. So this is just a sample that I took. One invoice. I wonder how many invoices are out there and how many conversations are out there with this kind of cost. I also see in this one invoice 3 conversations about the bike study, the Sangre Valley. And I believe at this point we paid $603 for conversations. Excuse me. It's not going to work. But I've also seen it in other invoices for other consultants. The same conversations with the same people. Again, the other consultant, they charge $120 per hour. This one charges $172 per hour, yet they're talking to the same people. How are we allowing this? Next, we also have conversations, let's see here. So for example, I also see this entire invoice with conversation, 4.5 hour, conversation, 3.5 hour. This is not enough for me. I had to go and investigate what these conversations were about. I need to know what are we paying $172 for, especially when this invoice equals 37 hours at $6,379 a month for conversations that are not happening and also duplicate conversations with the same people. I also see a lot of conversations with our staff, like Manny Carrillo, finance director, and the CEO. If we're going to continue to do this, I think it's an outrage to really be paying tax dollars and spending them like this, but I think our employees need to be notified that every time they have a conversation with a consultant, it's costing us $172. I remember having a conversation with a consultant for maybe 2 hours. Had I known it was costing that much, first of all, I would have declined the conversation. And I do remember my conversation consisted of, tell me what you want. So I spent an hour and a half talking about what my vision was, what we need in this community. So I was paying $172 to tell them what I want. For that amount, they should be telling me what we need in this community, not taking my ideas and making them their own. So I need for us to really look at these invoices, bring it back, and we need to start looking at what we're paying. To me, this is an outrage, and I really want our residents to know that I don't agree with this, and I want to continue to talk about it until we do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right.
I have to say that I have to agree. And I did bring it up a few months back, which hit a sore spot with a couple of my colleagues up here. But I do believe that we need to review some of these contracts and take a good look at what do these invoices actually say. Are they really legitimate? I mean, Councilmember Rubio brought up just a handful. How many more are out there that are floating around that look like that? And I think we need to review those. Thank you.
I'm sorry, let me just make one more point. And I think, Rose, you may remember, and all of you guys, when we had the study session, when we were trying to approve the budget, I think it was last year, I was really struggling with Mark Castanola being by himself, because we did have, all of us had this vision of economic development. So in order to help him out, I remember I suggested to creating a new position so this person could be in charge in-house of economic development. Guess what we did? We did open up that position. We did budget a new person to do specifically that. So that position didn't exist last year. We just created that position for economic development full-time. And yet, we're not using that person that we hired. We're using outside services. So for that kind of money, we can pay someone full-time. When I look at I added everything, and to this day, we spend $500,000 on consultants, $500,000. We could have hired 3 people for that amount of money. We don't have Dental in Public Works. We don't have Mark Castanola in Community Development Department. And we're saying that we want to freeze these positions because we want to save money for the next 6 months. Well, at this rate, we could have hired 4 more people for what we're paying outside. And so I really need us to do something about this. I'm telling you, this is an outrage. This is misusing tax dollar money. And I think we need to be more, taxpayer money, and we need to be more responsive to our community. To me, this is a crime. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. All right. At this point, do we have it? Is that it?
Well, there's 2 more, but I'm willing to push them over since you're so desperate to leave. I'm just
I'm
Thank you, Mayor. No, you know what?
Seriously, I'm going to be here till 11:30 because I got a long list real quick. So go ahead and finish it.
No, you know what? It's okay. The other ones can wait. I'll adjust them next council meeting.
And I just want to also bring up Mr. Horowitz, who was here, and I do have questions about that as well, but I'm going to go ahead and move because I'll be here till 11:30 that I want to discuss on this particular individual, who I consider also did a number here. Did not vote for him for the first time, but the second time I did in an error. But luckily he doesn't have a contract with us, and I want to bring it up because I do have questions about that as well. Because I'll stay here till 11:30 if I do that. So at this point, unless anyone else has any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and move for adjournment of the meeting, and that is my motion. Is there a second? Second. Any objections? Seeing none. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.